Alright, let's get into it. 'Cause I'm ready for some more Morgan. This bit's nuts. I love her. Trying to remember where exactly we left off. Killed a bunch of people, framed a guy. The guy was arrested for killing more people than we had killed. Very fascinating. And now we're his lawyer. That's about all I remember. I think we're at the crime scene. Who knows? There we go. Oh, that's right. We're going to the crime scene with London. Detective London. Hmm? We're definitely not alone down here. But when you reassured your... Ah! Hi, Lady Var. You're just in time. Hello. But when you reassured your partner we'd have some company, I didn't think you were including Blue Bloods. You know, I knew I'd forgotten to mention... What? Well, then she's a liar, babe. 'Cause I never said that. No, I never said that. Oh, come on, babe. That's what she's like. She lies for fun. That's what I call you, babe. It's a pet name. You like it. No, don't hang up. Don't hang up, baby. Don't hang up. Of course I do. We gotta get to work, hon. I'll have to call you back, babe. Something just came up. Where have I seen that symbol before? I think that's just the symbol of the Blue Bloods, right? I think Creek had that too. London? What is this? London? Who is this? Counselor Morgan, this is Adelaide Hahn. She's, well, she's a Blue Blood. Hey, I'm a perfectly legitimate career woman. You're speaking to Sienna Security Site Manager. If you need anything, miss, please don't hesitate to reach out. A real business card. It even has a watermark. I'm not familiar with Sienna's. We're a private security and investigating firm. We provide bouncers, armed escorts. We catch cheating partners, find runaway debtors, run paternity tests, that kind of stuff. Please look at the business card. Oh. Huh. Includes her personal contact number on top of her work details for some reason. This fucking lesbian. Oh my god. Hold on, I don't know what the area code is. I'm gonna need, this is in the age we live in, you need an area code. Please, so that I can call you later, for reasons. Possibly related to the case, possibly not. Don't worry about it. Sorry, but have we met somewhere? No, it can't be. I'd never forget a beauty like you. Fucking, I love this woman. She's the Hound's lawyer, hon. Seriously? She works for those copper-headed scumbags. So we're mortal enemies? That sucks. No life then, eh? I mean, hey, you ever heard of Romeo and Juliet? Just ignore the part where they both died at the end. I'll still play nice if you will. Adelaide Hahn. Site manager, Sienna Security. Likes new furniture, silk clothes, and dimples. Doesn't like clingy types, jealous types, nor needles. Avoids laundry day. Yeah? That tracks. I think she's missing a few articles of clothing. Alright. So you're private security, and you're currently securing this crime scene? Yeah, what's with the tone? What you're hearing is genuine bewilderment. London, why are the police letting Blue Bloods contaminate the crime scene where a cop died? Come on, we don't have cooties. If this wasn't the location where a cop died, we'd have already turned full control over to them. What? The police contract out the security around crime scenes to private companies all the time. And around here, the private company best suited for the job happened to be Cyanus. Letting them conduct their own side investigations is a small concession to keep the peace. A small concession? They're probably in there destroying evidence as we speak. Oh, we have the arcs to preserve the crime scene. They could burn the building down and we'd still have a pristine copy. London Bridges is trying to save face. Police couldn't keep this crime scene off limits without our help, and he knows it. Gremlins would be smashing their shiny cameras and popping their expensive tires around the clock if we weren't here. Lower wards kids take out drones by tossing shoes at them for fun. Is that why you see shoes hanging off of wires? No, I don't know why that happens. Okay, I don't know if this is true. The only explanation I know for that is like how it is cordoning off like gang territory. It'd be like, hey, this is you're entering or leaving a certain gang's territory or whatever. But again, that could be completely wrong. That's something I heard one time. I think I've also heard something about like place to get drugs. I don't fucking know. I didn't grow up like that. I don't know shit. Just the thing teens have always done for fun. Mystery solved? Fine. Maybe the cops and the Blue Bloods are all consummate professionals who never even bicker. But what kind of impartiality can I expect coming here to defend an Icaria? Well, you might get some ugly looks from those with less chivalry, but no one's gonna get in your way. We know how defense attorneys operate. We know damn well how you usually win. No one's gonna do anything that lets you worm the Hound out of his life sentence on a technicality. You sure you wouldn't prefer that? To have him back out on the street so you can take another shot at him? Oh, so flattery. That's how you flirt. What does that mean? Do you think we'd ever manage to gun down the Hound of Icaria in the street? Shank him in a holding cell? Blue Bloods took him alive just fine the other day, didn't they? Yeah, and look what happened to them afterwards. Definitely the Hound did that. So you won't tamper with the crime scene just because you want to make sure the state lobotomizes Sosuke for pentuple homicide. Yeah, I mean, we also literally get paid good money to do this kind of job, so we have a reputation to maintain. Rate us 5 stars when you're done looking around, okay? I'll be sure to leave a glowing review. Why are there so many women? I just realized this. There are so many women in these visual novels that I play that just aren't wearing bras. I'm not complaining. I'm just making a note. Just making a note for future reference. So this is the main entrance. Front door looks about as heavy as I remember, but it's unlocked. What's that? How was this door found? Chopin and Rogers were the first officers on the scene, responding to gunfire. Someone heard that. Good thing I cleaned up fast. Checked the area, then entered through the front door. The door was definitely locked when I arrived, but I didn't lock it behind me when I left. Didn't have any keys. Admiring our handiwork, the Cyanus installation. Who else would Blue Bloods trust to secure Blue Blood buildings? How does it lock? Never used a key before? I want to know how the lock functions. Does it lock behind you automatically? That's a good question. You looking to buy? Because I could set you up. It is a good question, hon. Why don't you answer it? Yeah, this model locks behind you by default. You need a key to get in if someone doesn't lock it for you from the inside. A physical key? Physical keys can't be hacked, nor overridden by a police badge. Some people consider those useful features. Is that why the door's ajar? Looks like the lock's been destroyed. Was it found like this? For as long as arcs have been up. It definitely wasn't locked when me and Reyes arrived, which was around 10:20 p.m. I definitely had to unlock to let me inside. Didn't think this behind me after I left. Presumably, though, it locked behind us as we left. Hang on. You and Reyes, what? Were you the second officers on scene? That's right. We weren't far when the 1099 went out at 10:15. Officer down. Long way from Precinct 254, isn't it? We were in the area. Awkward. You want the tour, then? Actually, I'd like to check out the alley first. You know the crime scene's on the 3rd floor, right? Yeah, but it has a window that opens to the alley, doesn't it? I just prefer to start from the bottom and work my way up sometimes. Yeah, sure, we can start there. Just be careful where you step if you like those boots at all. More articles! Wait, no. One problem with blue bloods and cops running security, I don't know who to blame for leaving their shit here. I'll give the moral high ground to whichever part of secure society learns to pick up after themselves first. Bombing ruled out in university fire. Panic about computer labs at North Technica University were set ablaze in the early hours of the morning. I'd say the fire has officially been ruled an accident, traced back to a cooling system failure. Okay. Other fires and bombings recently reported as sweeping eastward across the nation, dubbed by some members of the press as work of the Witch of the West. Each incident appears to have targeted data infrastructure. Interesting. Hundreds of thousands of files related to student debt. All of it. None Hey! Beautiful. A lot of them have less been eager to speak with us, and we may have no choice but to re-examine payment plans. Federal agents frustrated with the so-called witch. The witch is going around and burning and destroying student debt. I love them. My new favorite witch. Formally calling for the Director of Investigations to testify as to the progress or lack thereof in the search of this blah 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 arsonist. Okay. I feel like I've heard stories about bombings out west the last few months. Didn't know they'd all been attributed to one person, or they're now calling them the Witch of the West. No mention of victims, only data centers being targeted. But clearly, this witch is hitting someone where it hurts. If they've now got the feds involved, yeah. Really sends out that the federal investigators are getting involved. Most national security agencies were absorbed into the military police complex decades ago. That bureau survived, but it's a mere fraction of its size it used to be, and very different in its function. Modern reputation is that of attack dogs, deployed by the Senate to make examples of political targets. Can't say I like the idea of them being out there hunting for serial offenders. It's like there's a target on my back. Much darker last night than it is now, and I only took a quick peek. Even so, this looks like it's been moved, huh? Yes. Was trash pickup last night, perhaps? Checking the model number on the side. Looks like dumpsters of this make haven't been picked up by the city in a decade. Didn't realize there was DRM on trash cans. Hey, it's a heavy model, tough to lift, even if its wheels weren't broken. And designed for containing industrial waste? Howling it up here in a residential district isn't that hard to puzzle out, is it? It was cheaper for the megs to dump their shit on us than it was to haul it to a landfill. Is that why I can see marking on the ground here? From leaks? Oh, you really are a tourist, aren't you? I've been in the lower wards before, but only at night, right? Rain's dirty down here. Stains the ground wherever it falls. Acid rain, like from the history books. Not quite that bad, just smog combined with precipitation combined with the charms of the city to make dirty rain. Like I said, lower ward spring water. There's a shot named after it. Tequila and pickle juice. Ugh. So is the dumpster empty? Well, let's see. Hey, grab a glove if you're gonna... it's mostly empty. It's over a bunch of scrap metal at the bottom. Explains why I can't get it to budge. Careful. If you get your toe trapped down there, don't look at me to help you just because I'm modded. Are you saying you couldn't budge it either? I could if a girl was cheering me on. God, what a lesbian. I love this woman. Okay, London, thanks. Don't know what I was expecting to find, really. Now just watch it so you don't... let the lid slam. Sorry. An industrial dumpster, incredibly heavy yet still shows sign of having been moved. A very unpleasant sound. That's good to know. That'll probably come up... there's a Chekhov's gun if I've ever seen one. That'll come up later. The fire escape would lead right up to the crime scene, assuming it doesn't come crashing down once you step onto it. It's missing the ladder that will connect to the street level. Violating fire code with this tetanus trap on. Building inspection's not my department. Besides, you want to climb up into a burning building. Firefighters? You're funny, Bridges. Even a copper firefighter wouldn't risk getting singed to save a lower-worth property from burning down. An ad could probably make the jump up there. Ads are heavy. If an android leaped into that, the whole mess would probably come down on top of them.
40 months.
40 months, babies. Thank you, thank you. Hello, hello. I appreciate the resub. I have a new car, and, you know, new stuff is expensive, so I appreciate it. Yeah, modders are heavy too. Hey! Looks like the only way into the building is through the front door, then. Alright, I'm done back here. So I think I've seen everything That's right. I was standing here last night when... the kid. We saw a child. That child's gonna be important. It was dark and foggy. The kid was too far off to see my face. Weren't they? Oh, what is it, Tiger? Nothing. I thought I saw someone out of the corner of my eye, that's all. Oh dear, maybe it was unlisted. What are you... Those are real? They'll keep themselves, obviously, but yeah, they were real. I met some. They inform some of what they've seen. Never come in to testify, of course. Hi, Maya. Thank you for the alert. I hope work is going well. I think they'd stand out dressing like that, but if their camouflage didn't work, they wouldn't be unlisted, right? What do you mean they keep to themselves? Don't they work with any of the gangs down here? Sorry, have I gotten your hopes up or something? Trust me, you've got a better chance of winning the lottery than running into one. Why do I feel like we probably ran into one last night? Alright, forget I asked. Okay, this one I need to read. Often missing persons are unhoused who are not being tracked in any government database. While many non-citizens do live and work within the country, they are tracked through, and that's immigration, until they either leave or fully say unlisted, mostly a small group of seasonal workers who travel the country in migrating caravans, undercutting corporate contracts. Anthropological studies have described groups of unlisted living in urban, generally poor areas of what are effectively homeless communities. The overwhelming majority of whom are unhoused for less than 2 weeks, these unlisted actively refuse state housing assistance. Concerns about malnourishment, illiteracy, extreme poverty, and rampant mental... Their very nature, actual data on their quality of life or cultural practices is virtually non-existent. Interesting. You ready to go inside? I think so. So long as... No, I'm not with anyone else. It's just me here. Because she's frail, princess. And delusional, you know that. I'm sure she'll catch up. Now the question is, how many girlfriends does that lady have? So you were saying this used to be an apartment building? Somewhere between that and a long-stay motel, yeah. Blue Bloods didn't deviate far from that model when they took over. They call rooms like these vaults. Place to stash away a lover, witness, debtor when there's too much heat. You've gone through all these vaults, I take it? Cyanus helped us with that last night, yeah? Bringing around master keys, clearing out every possible hiding place. Didn't find a red-handed killer hiding anywhere, did you? Sorry, nope. So is this the Blue Bloods' forte, then? Securing people, places, and things? You could think of it that way. I guess I always assumed gangs made their money through drugs. Well, the Blue Bloods do deal here and there, but narcotics has been a rich man's game ever since the CDCA rolled in. Right. If you have the funds to ride the gray wave the way House Icaria does, you can make a killing. They got the market cornered from black to gray to white to pure green profit. Blue Bloods hate that they have to make do with all the scraps the Meg and the House don't bother producing in mass. Professional jealousy. How ugly. Why can't these underworld overlords just bury the hatchet, get together, and screw over the consumer like reasonable people do? They've tried, if you believe the rumors. About a year ago now, there was some kind of meeting. an olive branch from the golds to the blues. Apparently, the Blue Bloods have a product that the Icaria wanted to distribute. The Icaria sell legal drugs now, though. What kind of product could the Blue Bloods have that the Icaria couldn't manufacture? I'm not sure. Maybe that's why it went south so fast. Blood was spilled in less than an hour. Icaria aren't the type to keep negotiating after being spat on like that. And so, the Blue Bloods remain firmly planted in their lower wards niche. And they might not like having to take the low end, but they are filling a gap in the market. And that's every proper capitalist calling, right? Besides, the workers certainly appreciate the protection down here. Workers hire Blue Bloods for protection, but all that stuff is legal, so long as they're licensed, isn't it? Legal? Yes. Respectable? Most would still say no. So, household name security men consider it too high risk to be seen in a company of workers. Are we talking about... Yep, sex workers. That's kind of what I thought. Generally refute sex workers operating in high-end establishments. Maybe more commonly referred to as courtesans. Okay. That doesn't help that their average board member is easily pushing 60 years old and married. You aren't that far from pushing 60 yourself, are you? A matter of opinion. Besides, I'm a very modern, forward-thinking man. Did you finish those 50 rosaries already? Right. And the Icaria, they don't, compete in that market? No. People in the Icaria's heights might patronize a courtesan or two in the clown districts, but they never lower themselves to work alongside one. Hypocrites. That much I understand perfectly. The hypocrisy is the appeal for them. The rules don't apply to me. Couldn't ask for a more pure expression of power. Yeah, that sounds about right. You have to follow the rules. I don't. That's what makes me the one that's in charge. I have all the... Hello, game? Please don't crash. Of the devil, please? Thank you. Damn. Well, worse than I remember. Like a demon tore through the place. Yeah, and guess what? You're standing right next to that fucking demon. Seriously. What the hell happened here? That's what we all get paid to find out, right? I've definitely got a head start on the rest of you, though. Shall we bring up the arcs? Sure, I'll patch you in. Allow me. If you're needed on the phone, Miss Han, please, don't let me keep you here. Nonsense! I've got all the time in the world for you. Everyone's treating me like royalty today. I feel like I don't distinguish enough of those two's voice, but whatever. Fuck off, it's fine. Augmented reality crime scene. Took the words right out of my mouth. Where should we start? How about with tall, dark, and mysterious in the middle here? That's your client. He was found standing over Chopin's body by the arresting officer. Rogers, right? And then he knocks Sosuke out. Correct. So why is it this artistic rendition of Sosuke and not a capture from Rogers' body cam? Well, it seems like at the time, their body cam was off. Seriously? Yeah, I'd chew him out myself if he was here with us. It's the department's policy to have all sensors green when responding to an emergency. In other words, I'm like 90% sure that Rogers killed the other cop. He killed a fellow cop. Probably specifically because Chopin was a quote-unquote better cop. And not better as in, like, he was better at being a cop, but, like, he was more good-hearted. And less tolerable of shenanigery. Did all this not qualify as an emergency, then? Chopin and Rogers were responding to shots fired. It's not uncommon in this part of town. For two inexperienced officers first on the scene, it might not come to mind. At least, Chopin could use that excuse. Rest in peace. But apparently, Rogers requests replacement body cams nearly every week. Okay, if he's that big of a klutz, take away his gun once the city's done throwing him a parade. I'll, put in a request. Alright then, who's next? Yep, that's new. We could look at everyone else and be like, yeah, I know all these people. Windows open to the fire escape in the alley below. There's a thin misting of blood across them. I had a good guess as to who it belongs to. This is where we found Creek, leader of the pod. Ballistics tells us the shooter was standing in front of the desks. Near where my client was found. Your words, not mine. A nasty slug burst in his chest, blew blood black onto the windows behind him. The open windows. All of a spread. Yes, it is. Did someone open these, or... No, they were open when we secured the scene. Any fingerprints? Plenty on the handles there from Creek and his pod. That's where the handles are? Something wrong? Definitely. But how the hell can I explain why I know that? I don't remember the window being open last night. No, sorry, I guess I'm wondering about the keys around his neck and the arcs. Oh, well, one was a master key. Could unlock any other door in the building. Other key we eventually paired to a small safe in his desk. Empty, though. Suppose that's all irrelevant, since he apparently died with the keys on his person. They caught my eye too, to be honest, but not every detective's instinct pans out. So who was this guy? Curious? Only professionally. I don't care what he was before I killed him. A criminal record dating as far back as it goes. Sealed when he turned 18. What makes you so sure he has a juvenile record, then? The more experience these guys get, the more time in between their arrest. That I'm seeing, he was pretty damn experienced by the time he was of age. You're trying to compliment him. I wasn't trying to insult him, hon. Anything you'd like to add? Nah, I don't want to say in front of you two. If you want to say a few words, the detective and I could say, only words I have are first killer. I'll deliver them in person, or not at all. Okay, step forward. Hi, yes, you would like to speak to me? Fair enough. Do you have any idea why someone might want to hurt this Creek fellow? That's not funny. That dog you're defending. It's a fair question, on. Give it fair consideration. Besides the Icaria, the rest are our city's finest? No, Creek was charismatic and driven. Plus he made us a lot of money. No true blue would want him gone. The bloodthirsty Icaria soldier he was interrogating, however, probably wasn't a huge fan. What about family? This is getting old fast. A younger brother's listed as a next of kin. Leave his brother out of this. Hell, leave me out of this. Burning through a person like you're picking at zits. Well, seems he's out of town anyway, taking summer lessons at Hound Mariner U. That's a good school. An expensive school. Younger brother has no listed occupation. Also no priors, no juvenile record. TAD at his age? Poor kid. Bills for that cost an arm and a leg. Creek must have been sending him. Detective. Did you just leak the confidential medical data of a non-suspect to a third party? Hey, you don't have to. How about I buy you an ice cream or something? Bribery, too. You're digging yourself pretty deep. It's still bribery if I'm the government official. Yes? Question mark? The screen. I turned it on to distract Tanks long enough to grab his gun. I remember choosing not to turn it back off. An interesting setup. Powerful setup. It was blaring when we arrived. Sound system, I mean. One of the CS texts is a real audio file. So it broke her heart how loud they must have blared the speakers all the time. Where's it out, she said. It really was giving me a headache when I turned it off. Didn't enjoy having to turn it back on. I want to count on Orcas to value the longevity of their tech purchases. Okay, so that didn't change. Blood loss from the neck, even I can tell that much. Stabbed with a bladed weapon right near the carotid artery. Very efficient. Not the kind of kill someone could make without prior experience. My client's a humble bodyguard. Come on now, I know you've got a job to do, but you'll shame him if you don't let him take credit for this one. Miller was no joke in a fight. Take him out with one clean stab to the neck using his precious signature katana. Hound must be itching to brag about it. I'll defer to the medical examiner on this matter, thank you very much. Oh, what do you mean? Sato said the same thing. Katana to the neck, in not so many words. Is Miller's blood even on the katana? Even if it is, why would a medical examiner assume the katana was used here when my knife is a much better fit for... My knife? My knife? Where is it? Where... I gave Sosuke the knife before I left. Should have been found on him when he was arrested. It should be somewhere in the arcs. You looking for something, Tiger? They hadn't found the knife, and I asked about it anyway. That'd mean admitting that I know it's missing. If I tell them Sosuke mentioned a knife that only the killer would know about, I'd be ruining my case before we even enter the courtroom. Or worse, pointing the police in the direction of the knife's real origin. No, I just... Was anything found on my client's person when he was arrested? Besides a gun, a sword, and a bunch of blood that did and didn't belong to him? Nope, not even any lint in his pockets. Oh, that's bad. That's very, very bad. There are so many things potentially bad about this. Why do you ask? No reason. Sometimes you gotta shake the tree to see what falls out, or so they say. Oh, you're blindly guessing. I've been there. Something must have happened to that knife. It couldn't have just disappeared. Not from a crime scene locked down like this. I'll need to find it, but I can't just go looking for it. This is what it feels like to play with a handicap. It's okay, Morgan. You did your best. How were you to know that some weird insanity was going to happen here? I advise you to brace yourself before opening the autopsy photos for this one, Counselor. Yes, this is sufficiently obfuscated. A lot to take in. The skull was crushed? Yes, but the cause of death was blood loss from a laceration around the neck. Hit the floor and bled out in seconds. Everything else you're seeing there is post-mortem. Overkill. Not the word I'd use for this kind of shit. Oh, calm down. I didn't do it for the fun of it. In this specific instance. I've done a little bit of overkill in the past as a treat. What? Can a woman not indulge in a little bit of fun fucking with a dead body? Not like literally, but like, you know, with weapons and such. Like blowing those beasts. This victim had modded eyes. Seems to me like someone just didn't want to take any chances. Bullshit. No one of the lower wards would get optic mods with recording functionality. You wouldn't be welcome anywhere. You're gonna claim the Hound of Icaria didn't know something that fundamental? Nah, he bashed his brains in for the fun of it. I'm sure to a law-abiding citizen like yourself, we're all scum of the earth user. I'm pretty scummy myself, hon. Defense attorney, remember? Tch. Who the hell deserves shit like this? Deserves? What does that have to do with anything? Doesn't matter what anyone deserves. I do it because I want it to. Nothing more, nothing less. I take it that this bat is what did the deed? Match the splinter we found inside his wounds, if you had any doubts. Something here about Sasuke's fingerprints. You think you would get anything but partials off of that? It's practically splinters. Makes sense. I was the one who actually swung it down, and I was wearing gloves by then. Whoever did this, they were damn enthusiastic. You know how hard they have to swing to crush a skull? To break the bat itself? I can't imagine. It was barring Sasuke from exiting the other room before I used to destroy Trey's eyes. But no one else knows that, and I have no way of informing them. What a pain. But the fact that Morgan says, wanted to be careful, but Hana's like, no. Everyone knows that the lower wards, no one would have eyes that could record. These have a different function. In other words, that's definitely a hint that if Sosuke didn't do it, and Morgan's right about why someone did that, ooh, you're pointing to a lot of people who aren't from the lower wards, but who came down here anyway. It's fascinating. It's like, there's some faint blood that's been smeared here. Did it belong to this victim? And Sosuke. Wonder if maybe the bodies hadn't gotten moved around for some reason, but your client's legs and feet were soaked in others' blood when he was arrested. Anyone had to sneak up on Chopin in order to stab him in the back. You think he slid his feet across the ground to avoid making noise? Does he say otherwise? I'll let you keep guessing on that one. The big one. He made a strange face when I shot him, and a loud slam when he hit the floor. This one, a real long rap sheet. With a short ending. Buckshot to the torso. Died instantly. Flex wear on his mods put the time of death at 9:44 p.m. Killed by his own weapon. It comes up a bit short of poetic justice, but it doesn't look like he was in any kind of struggle for it beforehand. How'd someone manage to get it off his hands? It wasn't any great feat, I assure you. The text identified as a double-barreled Mag US, and hey, how'd you know the gun was his? He's still wearing his holster in the arcs. Was I mistaken? No. About a week ago, Tanks here was stopped and frisked by a patrol unit, and they found this here gun on him. They found this gun on him, and they just handed it back to him. They bought and paid for it above board. So this gun isn't jailbroken. You have tag data from the murders. No, we don't. Strange. According to the text, the gun is jailbroken. What happened between last week and last night that he'd get the tag stripped off? Also, Morgan made a real good... that was a hell of a slip of the tongue there, saying that it was his. It's like, how did you know that? I guessed. Random guess. Something that made him think his piece would see action soon. Who the hell are you, really? Why are you lying there dead, right in the middle of my crime scene? That was Tariq Chapman, as you might guess, patrol officer and the son of 2 loving fathers, who strongly emphasized to the chief of police their desire to see justice done. Reyes wasn't exaggerating about how he died. Run through from behind with a sword. So he would have been standing in front of the desk. Then he was impaled. Then he collapsed to the floor face first. And the sword got stuck in the ground. Bad luck for the attacker, I suppose. Yeah, Dr. Santos noted in her report that the stab wound was, in her words, jostled. Pardon. Like the attacker tried to pull it out, but it was stuck, so they had to jiggle it around. Hey, it's probably what saved Roger's life. Kept your client distracted and disarmed long enough to give Roger time to rush in. Allegedly. Not where I left you, that's for sure. And according to Sosuke, the one thing he does recall after I pass the baton to him is gripping a sword. You're not giving me much to work with. Fingerprints on the grip match your client's right hand, by the way. Here I was getting my hopes up. And it definitely wasn't suicide, because no one else's prints are on the damn thing. I ruled out suicide once I saw he was stabbed in the back, thank you. There are papers scattered underneath his body. Did I knock them off the desk at some point? Maybe when the tall one hit the ground? Maybe when I was swinging that bat down. Hang on. What kind of paper is this? Can't read a word. Really, you should get that looked at. My vision's 20/20. What am I looking at, Miss Site Manager? Those docs are internal business, ma'am. Nothing to worry your pretty little head over. How do you know they're internal business if we can't read them? You've really never seen red ink before? Never heard of it. It's a corporate information security protocol. Files with special flags trigger specific print commands if you try to make physical copies. Makes you use some kind of special ink. Try to take a photo off it and it comes out a bright blur. Paper's special too. Too much heat, humidity, becomes illegible. Of course, bleeding out on top of you with a lot of heat and humidity. So these documents contain confidential data that the Blue Bloods wouldn't want getting out? What do they say in the movies? I can't confirm nor deny that. And if I subpoenaed the data, do your worst. We've got lawyers too. And unlike your client, they've got all the time in the world to stall. Besides, you and I both know exactly what the Hound's motive was, and it isn't written in those pages. It's written all over his busted up face. Sure, but you won't mind if I copy down whatever I can anyway, right? I wouldn't have any legal reason to stop you if that's what you're getting at. Creek's fine wood desk. You seem particular about it. Maybe in no small part because it had a priceless no mask hidden inside it, but I assume you've been through this data pad here? Front to back. We didn't find anything we didn't already know. Seems like Creek was smart enough to use it for payments and nothing else. How'd he manage that? Even gangsters need spreadsheets, and it's the paperwork you see scattered about. They really did everything by hand. PPP is what they call it over in organized crime. Paper and pencil protocol. Helps the orcas keep their books off the books. Or at least in a format that's easy to destroy, should push come to shove. Did you run checks on this credit card that's jammed in here? Not surprised you don't recognize it. There's a dark card. Wow, tell me more. Wow, tell me more. It's an untraceable wallet on the palm of your hand. I'd hope any wallet that could fit in the palm of your hand, detective. But you really can't find the owner. Can't trace any of its transactions. Most we can tell is the data pad registered calls to dark card networks at around 9:40 p.m. But it timed out. What does that mean? Transfer didn't go through. Either someone got cold feet or they forgot their password. Happens to the best of us. By the way, why has this cloth been flagged? Oh, sure. Forensics didn't find any blood on it. Who flagged it? Lady Rockford herself. Could be if she fat-thumbed it. Yeah, I'm sure it's nothing. If Emma fucking was the one to mark that, it's important. The question is why. Paper scattered all over his desk. Suppose I'm partially to blame. Didn't exactly memorize his setup before I started searching for the mask. What's this? What'd you find there? Note. Looks like Creek's handwriting from the other files I've seen. M. Icaria. Looks like M. Icaria, actually. He's dead, London. I was gonna let the spellings mistake slide. Alright, sorry, but M? It's gotta be Makoto, right? You know Makoto? I know he's the Ikaria's heir apparent. What I hear, he's an appropriately frightening young scion. He's really quite something. Why would his name be on Creek's desk? He was Creek's real target the other day. Sosuke was some kind of consolation prize. Bagging the Hound was a consolation prize? These punks have their sights set high. Yeah. Like no one taught them not to stare at the sun. Okay. Looks like that's everything in here. Well, I don't envy either of your workloads. It's a mess in here. And it's a lot of blood, that's for sure. I'm impressed you haven't gotten nauseous, miss. I'd be right at home here if you all weren't poking your noses around. Shoot, I just remembered. Never hear the end of it if I don't check with my partner after saying I would. It'd be good to keep going if I step out to make a call. A call? Is your partner your mom? Is your mom blind? Send a text. Thanks for your understanding. Maybe he was the one with the weak stomach. You'd be sure to let me know if you're feeling faint. I can keep going. We're nearly finished anyway. I'd stick to the arcs if I were you. Nothing behind that door that's better seen in person. You've been such a gracious host up until this point, Miss Hahn. Why the cold feet now? It's ugly in there. Uglier than this? Different kind of ugly, then. It's all in the eye of the beholder. Which eye? That thing's got a lot of them. Is it the scorching eye? Or the petrifying one? I don't remember all the other eyes. I warned you. Don't worry, I can stomach it just fine. As long as I can understand it. Why did Creek's pod torture my client? I don't know that they did. Sosuke told me they electrocuted him, Han. They probably just grounded him. A great current applied every few minutes stops most mods from rebooting. So no SOS pings, no adrenaline bursts pulled out of his ass. And the pliers, hammers, and syringes, what purpose did they serve? Could have just killed Sosuke when they failed to nab Makoto. Instead, they dragged him down here. Why? Try and get info on Makoto's itinerary. Get enough intel to make another run at him? there are any answers for me in here, I'll need a grout scraper to find them. It's water. Cold enough that condensation on the outside of the bucket. So water for sponge baths? Just a simple way to keep a guest from dozing off. Temperature shock makes caffeine look like a sleep aid. This coming after you claim you don't know if Sosuke was tortured. You know what the other bucket's for then? I know you said you've got a weak sense of smell, but do you really need a hint here? Then the last bucket is... What is that? Trash? Cloth and rope. Bindings. Or bandages. See, they were nursing him back to health. I'll run your third past Sosuke next chance I get. This must be what's left of what they were keeping Sosuke tied up with. They would have had to use something, yeah? This door doesn't even lock. Now if I remove the bat, barring it from the outside. So he was brought here, tied up, questioned, breaks out, bursts in the next room, cuts up 2 of his captors, and blow the other 2 away. That's what you think happened. That's what it looks like. And then what? Chopin runs in and turns his back on a violent criminal? Don't strain yourself trying to make it sound improbable. Cops are dumb. If the Hound crouched in a corner, he'd have a chance to do enough. Hell, he probably just played dead. Oh, in that scene out there, you think some patrol officer would go around checking pulses? Why would my client go to all that trouble to get the jump on officer? Why not just run away? Hell no, why not ask him for medical treatment? Because he was standing in the middle of the 4 men he just killed? Ugh. I know that Sosuke had no logical reason to attack Chopin, but so what? Even Sosuke himself says he would have been acting on instinct. What instinct that Chopin was in between him and escape? Has all this blood been tested, Miss Han? Enough it has. Besides Sosuke, who else would it belong to? That's a bit lazy, but it's not as if there's more here than the last time I visited. Sosuke really did lose a lot of blood. By the time he stumbled out of here, a stiff breeze should have been enough to knock him over. Is he really such a badass that he still managed to take out a police officer before he'd even noticed? It's not as if I feel nothing looking at someone else's handiwork, the product of their violence. But it's like an artificial sweetener. No complaints for that first instant. Then the aftertaste comes. Empty calories. I'll just be hungrier again, later, faster. Best to stay disciplined. So you're like a shark. You smell blood in the water and you go, I need more, but I need to do it. Hypodermic needles. Probably not packing anything healthy. Sosuke better hope they were at least sanitized. I'm not sure Sarah can treat an infection with gauze and rubbing alcohol alone. But those needles there... The design of these needles seem a little odd. Well, someone will tell you sooner or later, so... They're projectiles. Load into a gun and fire away. Sosuke was captured by men wielding needle guns. Sayana Security have any peacekeeping tools they like to disclose as having recently gone missing? You're cursing up the wrong pipe. You can find tools all on his own, and we're not that kind of operation. An operation where the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. More like the right's just been washed if you have to handle some garbage. Cyanus is that legitimate. Why aren't all the blue bloods working legal jobs then? Not enough positions available. Gotta earn like hell to be considered for a job on this side of the fence. Creek and his pod weren't bringing in that kind of money. They liked Creek's pod where it was. Who's they? Upper management. Mask of the death sentence. I was the one given the honor of hanging. I did upper management like Creek? I'm just a humble site manager, miss. No one to know. Sure. So do all these needles contain anesthetics? No, there's also stimulants and barbitazine. Sleep aid, okay. Wait, there must be more then. Oh, it's also true serum. Okay. Has never been shown to find such in a controlled setting. Sampling liquors. Well, in truthful confession, only 0.2% more often. Not exactly helpful. Like the true serum? You can get sued for selling it as such. Makes you talk. Doesn't make what you say the truth. So they wanted Sosuke talking. What did they ask him? If your client can't remember, isn't willing to recall, there's really no one else alive who would know, yeah? getting a headache, but it's not from anything sensory. I should know more about this crime scene than anyone. Why can't I piece it together? If I can't piece it together, the cops will never trace any of this back to me, right? So why do I feel so ill at ease? Okay, thanks for your patience, ladies. Did I miss anything? Nah. Oh. Would you have felt better if you had? I'm going to head out now, actually. Got a long day tomorrow. Going back by yourself, then? Are you sure? Get you a ride out of the neighborhood. I'm sure Miss Haunt here has already made sure that we'll both get out of here without any trouble. That is her company's area of expertise, isn't it? Of course. Well, at least let me walk you out. Sure, why not? Safe travels. Goodbye, hot lesbian. We'll see you later. I'm sure you'll come up at some point. So, Detective, there's something you didn't want to talk about in front of the professionals at Sienna Security? Thanks for picking up on that. Or else you'll be upset that you never checked in. Yeah, right after this I will. This room. It'll be directly underneath the crime scene. Yep, same fire escape right there. Same type of window, too. Has this room been scanned into the arcs? Yeah, but no one found anything noteworthy. Except Sienna's being sloppy. So what were you actually doing when you left Han and I back there? Something Han said earlier, about how no true blue would wish harm on Creek. Her phrasing stood out to me. Because it implies the existence of false blue bloods? Because it reminded me of one of the first things I learned in this city. There are no monoliths. Megs, Orca, City Hall, they're always factions. And among the blue bloods, the party lines are especially visible. I made a call, not to Reyes, and confirm some things. And I figure I owe you a little hint or two concerning the tone of the last message I delivered. That message warned me not to broaden the scope of my investigation. Getting hints from you might be self-defeating. Not those hints, trust me. So what faction did our pal Creek belong to? The Youngbloods. Opposite end of the compass from the Old Guard, the conservative blue blood leadership. Alright, I mean, I guess if you're gonna call yourself, if you're gonna be part of the Blue Bloods and you're part of the new wave, you're gonna, yeah. Very conventional naming sense, but I guess when you're called the Blue Bloods, you ain't got much choice. All of them older than 70, some of them pushing higher than 90. Onset Creek was too useful for anyone to want dead, but my sources don't agree. Creek talked, said things aloud that others only whispered. Ambitious, charismatic, up-and-coming, and young. Could easily see him being very unpopular with all the wrong people in the Old Guard. That's interesting info, Detective, but it doesn't exactly flip this case on its head. I already know who killed Creek. Police have already decided it's Sosuke. Learning that he had some occupational hazards, we're hardly convinced that the jury otherwise. My client's the one standing accused, and everyone already knows why Blue Bloods and Icarias would want to kill each other. Do you? They're rival gangs. They hate each other. Do you know why? It's the same reason all the Blue Blood leadership is ancient, while their muscles made up of orphans and delinquents. 30 years ago, the Icaria betrayed their peace with the Blue Bloods, started killing them. They didn't stop for days. By the end of it, every single member of the leading Blue Blood families under the age of 40 was dead. Well, I can see how their kids would grow up to hate the Icaria, yeah. You're not getting it, Tiger. Their kids didn't grow up at all. If that's the case, how are the Blue Bloods still around? For one thing, the Icaria had bigger fish to fry. This was right before the Red Decade. But every second in the next 10 years, positioning themselves so they could come out of the other end as nobility. Okay, but basically what I'm understanding is the Icaria went to the Blue Bloods, killed everyone they could, which was not the higher-ups, which are currently all the Old Guard. Which is why pretty much everyone who's not Old Guard is orphans and just, like, incredibly young people who had no ties to the Blue Bloods beforehand. Second, one remainder of the Blue Bloods found a new niche to fill. Taken in delinquents furious at a country, driven off a cliff by adults before they could even get a chance to vote. Blue Bloods swelled their ranks to new heights by looking out for the little guys during those years, in exchange for favors down the line. Lastly, and most importantly, they survived because they still had hope. You serious? I am. It's a powerful weapon. Hope for what? Hope that the Icaria had missed one, as they'd fled the country. Hope that a promised heir would grow strong and return one day. A triumphant little lord with overflowing riches and overwhelming power. Sounds like a fairy tale. Someone ran away from the country. They probably wouldn't have that power or money. Those endure for a reason. Well, now you know. A warning to watch where you step isn't exactly worth much if you're fumbling around in the dark. Fairy tales and warnings. What's up? Hey, did you and your pals in OC ever hear about some kind of blue blood hunter? Like a bounty hunter? Or huntsman, maybe? Where'd you hear that? Sosuke thinks he might have overheard talk of something like that while he was in captivity. Does it mean anything? Nope. I don't like the hesitation there, detective. You're definitely lying to me! Just an urban legend. I've said the same thing about enlisted before this afternoon, and yet... Fair enough. See a huntsman and live to tell the tale? Buy you as many lotto tickets as you want. Hey, you ever pay attention to any of this graffiti down here? Scrawling is about Lobo and the cyberpunk and HBK increasingly. Haven't seen that myself. I was gonna say Red Hood. Why are you asking? Feel a chill down your spine? So for HBK, that's all old news. Ghost stories and campfire tales. There are a lot of campfire sites around here. Lots of places to start fires. But Red Hood, haven't heard that in who knows how long. It's one of the oldest. Rough story. Based on a real event? Nothing worth recounting. I'll take your word for it. What's gotten into you that you're feeling all superstitious? Guilty conscience? Dream about working with the mafia. Psychologists would call that projecting. Ouch. Too far? Nah, you're probably right. Didn't feel a thing. I don't know why I asked, really. Cause just had an odd feeling all day. Like deja vu? You've been here before? No, I hate that feeling. It's whatever the opposite of that would be. The unnerving certainty that you're in uncharted waters. Scary stuff. I don't like not being in the know, detective. It sucks. How do you people live like this? Oh my god, we actually get to go to Morgan's apartment. Have we ever actually been in Morgan's apartment? Well, I feel like every time we are, this is the only bit we see. The view outside. Icaria, Blue Blood, Megs, Orcas, dirty cops, and criminal informants. Lines drawn back and forth across a battlefield like a spider's suspension bridge, dizzying in its complexity, frail along any given strand. I can talk, I promise. I know word good. But one wrong move and you're completely ensnared. Priorities. Icaria don't care about who tore through Creek's gang, but prefers Sosuke doesn't spend life in prison for killing a cop. The Blue Bloods want to tear Sosuke's throat out, but if Han's taken at her word, they're settling for 5 counts of murder. Can I take Han at her word? Is she a young blood like Creek, or is she with the old guard? Could have I asked London that? If I had, could I have trusted his answer? As it turns out, Qasim London is much, much harder to read than I anticipated. And I can't even trust my client to act in his own self-interest. A man to bodyguard by trade and a zealot for his house. Trial starts tomorrow. Do I still need more information? Is there time to find it? No. What I need right now is a nightcap. If I can't fall asleep, then I'll know I'm in trouble. Until then, guess sleep will have to wait. It's unlocked. Hello? Pardon me for dropping in at such a late hour, Counselor Morgan. Standing in my doorway, she cut through the light like a blade of spilt ink. Why is it suddenly reading like a noir film? But twice as sharp, but not nearly as familiar. It's outside of normal consultation hours, miss. She purses her lips, like lily petals shying away from the moonlight. Jesus Christ, Morgan, I didn't realize you were a poet. What's a smirk by any other name? Please, call me Murray. Any last name, Murray? The question floats in the air like curling cigarette smoke. I could tell she was used to the smell. I'll leave that up to the imagination. Self-assured and unapologetic, the unspoken family name loud as a signature. written in blood. Ikaria? Knew it. You're from House Ikaria. Might I step inside? She blinks. Her head turns a millimeter. A forked tongue testing the temperature of the air. She wasn't asking for permission. Just you? What about your friends in the hallway? She raises an eyebrow but keeps staring at the floor. She's surprised at my perception of the unseen threat, but not quite impressed. I don't think they need to join us, do you? She was the kind of woman to make you remember... Smoking could kill. Murray Ikaria, October 1st. Occupation representative. The best at making use of people, but the worst at hiding distaste. How can I be of service, Murray? You're already being quite accommodating, both to me and my family's interest. I came here tonight to be of service to you. I understand that you're somewhat new to this underworld of ours. I'm grateful for the offer, Murray, but inexperienced as I am, I've gathered that House Ikaria didn't come into its fortune by being generous. Would you like to know how House Ikaria did come into its fortune? I know you operate a lending corporation with a significantly diversified portfolio. Yes, the good old IFG. The public face of the Ikaria criminal empire, clean-shaven as it's become. And I know you founded a pharmaceutical company and profited immensely when it went public. And before that, I know your family became nobility during the years of civil unrest. No doubt by being well-positioned when the time came to reprivatize our nation's industries. Yes, and before that, I know you slaughtered the Blue Bloods 30 years ago. Very good, Counselor Morgan. You've acclimated to our waters remarkably fast. What I don't know is why Makoto Ikaria has been the target of multiple kidnapping attempts over the past year. You can't fathom a guess as to why the Blue Bloods might want to ransom the family's heir? That's the only guess I can make. It strikes me as shallow. Nothing more dangerous than waters you don't know the depth of. As you said, 30 years ago, the Ikaria cartel, an unrecognizable band of brutes and drug smugglers compared to today, massacred the respectable Blue Bloods and left their geriatric leadership to die on the vine. But we thrust the knife much deeper than that. You went after their heirs, and their entire future. Are you familiar with genetic factor authentication? Using DNA as a password, blood specifically, easier than memorizing a string 3 billion characters long. The GFA has fallen out of favor, hasn't it? Basically, it's DNA matching, like, password, yeah. The Blue Bloods made ample use of it back then. That might explain why they're called the Blue Bloods, because they were legitimately hereditary. A bad bet. They already had all their offshore accounts, business titles, property deeds. The Blue Bloods thought they had already won. They were establishing a dynasty. So as they made their political marriages, they bound their alliances and fortunes in literal blood. GFA was both a financial and symbolic laundering of the Blue Bloods' past. Their children, now married, clean-cut, and perfectly respectable, would prosper alongside wealth no longer tainted by ill-gotten gains. Minus the part when all billionaires, are inherently violent. A billionaire existing in general is inherent violence. Anyways. So that GFA registry became the Ikaria's checklist. We went through and crossed out anyone that could have accessed those funds. And now all of it sits untouchable overseas in encrypted digital warehouses in some of the oldest, most austere banks in the world, collecting interest that will never be claimed. Does that answer your question as to why they target Makoto? Wait, okay. Is this why a long-lost heir of the Blue Bloods would actually be incredibly powerful? Because they could access all that money? How old? We don't know how old Sosuke is. I was gonna, for a second, part of my brain for a split second said, is Makoto that heir? But then I remembered, no, he's way too young. So, better question, is Sosuke that heir? Unlikely. No, and you know it doesn't. Because if they thought they could lock you out of your coffers by killing Makoto, they wouldn't be trying to take him alive. You're paying attention. I like that. We don't use GFA. And Makoto is the heir to House Ikaria, to the Ikaria Financial Group. He'd never be tied to our legitimate banking information. Why not? What if he wants to buy a lollipop? A lollipop would be provided to him. The family's black market proceeds and its white market holdings must never mix. He divided your house right down the middle. Pardon the expression, but how can you stand atop the backs of many? And you all take this division that seriously. Deadly seriously. That is our family's rule, dating back centuries. Either you serve the house, or you serve its interest. Never both. So you're assigned to either the criminal organization, what regards the IFG, or to managing the family's legitimate business holdings, like Renegen. But that means you are nearly as much of an outsider to the Ikaria Financial Group as you are. Nearly is doing a lot of work there. When you answer to, then, who controls the Ikaria's legitimate empire? Until Makoto marries, his mother. And I take it Makoto isn't solely responsible for the house's affair at his age. Makoto wields great authority as the heir, but yes, the house is led by his father Raphael, and more directly by his grandfather, our patriarch, Daisuke Ikaria. I see. Well, that points me back where I started. The Blue Bloods want to hold Makoto hostage to gain leverage on the likes of Daisuke. How can I put this? Had things gone even slightly different 30 years ago, the Blue Bloods would be the ones shaking hands with politicians, marrying ambassadors, and sitting in boardrooms. Some of them believe it can still be so, if the right match were made. They want to marry into House Ikaria? The Makotos and all the real Blue Bloods are older than... They'd find an age-appropriate adoption. You're missing the point. They need Makoto alive and well to negotiate that kind of reversal of fortune. They've been trying to capture him for the past year, but every Blue Blood I met today seemed to care a lot more about getting revenge for the dead men than kidnapping a preteen. How many do you think Sosuke's cut down in the last year he spent repelling their attempts? Is that a source of internal conflict? If the old guard are throwing young bloods into an Ikaria shredder en masse, trying to capture Makoto just to elevate themselves, I suppose that all might total up enough motivation for them to torture Sosuke, yeah. I had heard Sosuke was wounded. No one informed me he had been tortured. You know him, I take it? As you've gathered, Sosuke deals in matters unrelated to my side of the family, but he is still family. Speaking of my side, I have a duty as a representative of my wing of the house to stress that we do not want this trial to be prolonged. So the bean counters don't care for the extra attention. That makes sense. Do you care about the outcome? A win is always preferable, but not a necessity. Makoto Ikaria hired me to prove Sosuke's innocence, if he's the one signing the checks. Did he say why he hired you? He hired you for 2 reasons. Reason 1, his options are limited. More limited than he suggested, no doubt, to keep a strong front. The entire house is currently being audited by the state. Our usual legion of lawyers and accountants are already billing hours as fast as they can, so he wouldn't have his pick of the litter. So one half of the family can't talk business at the dinner table. With the other half, but you share a pool of lawyers? Lawyers can be trusted to be discreet, can they not? Yeah, we can read between the lines. So then you'll understand reason 2. Whatever lawyer he did find through the Ikaria's usual connections would, like me, do whatever's best for the house as a whole. And not what's best for Sosuke. I'll make an amendment. 3 reasons. Makoto knew that if he didn't assign him any lawyer, Sosuke would just stay silent if the state dragged him off to be chained, rather than inconvenience the house any further. Well, yeah. No one says Sosuke for less than a day. Even I can tell that he's never seen a cross he wouldn't jump at the opportunity to bear. That explains why Makoto would hire someone without connections to the Ikaria. He's slow rolling another addendum that'll clear up why on earth my name came across his desk. Literate crowns and times tables, as I'm sure it was. I hope I've been able to elucidate matters for you, Counselor Morgan. masterfully subtle way to say we're done talking. Now, I might ask you a small favor in return. Pass this message to Sosuke. If you see a way out, take it. Do you understand what you're asking him to do? Even if Sosuke took a plea bargain, even if I somehow got the other charges reduced to manslaughter, self-defense, the state thinks he killed a cop. The message is for Sosuke, not you. Your interpretation of it is irrelevant. My interpretation of it is suicide. I'd rather die than give up make the house go through any shit or whatever. End of conversation. As she reaches the exit, she turns back to look at me, lingering in the doorway, like the warm buzz of a strong, dark cocktail. But your assessment is correct. If this were just 4 dead blue bloods, our dim little underworld could balance out the ledger unassisted. That cop had shown up last night. Do you know something about the late Officer Chopin? Sitting in mourning after death of city's councilman's beloved adoptive son in the line of duty. All I know is funeral dirge will make those 4 boys' deaths sound like a disinterested sigh. By the way, I must admit you have a lovely apartment, counselor. Changing subjects as subtly as a bullet train hopping its tracks. Quite spacious for a defense attorney. Yeah, place wouldn't sell after the tram route got diverted. I negotiated down the rent and then installed all the soundproofing myself. Can't open the windows without being treated to the sounds of the city, then? There's always a cost. That's one mystery solved then, isn't it? Enjoy the rest of your quiet evening, counselor. The door glides to a close behind her, easy as a question left unasked. I'm left here hanging on a single-held breath of stillness, listening as the deafened thud of her honor guard's implied violence stomps down the hallway behind her. Woof. I feel like Morgan possibly dodged a bullet there. But we're fine. Everything's great. We're not dead. Yet. I was still leaned back in my chair, staring holes into my ceiling long after the scent of her expensive tobacco had faded into null. Savoring it while it lasted was beyond me at the moment. My attention's elsewhere. This case is knotted and twisted like a gnarled oak. Just when I think I found my rhythm, the blade runs dull. Carving is an exercise in patience and vision. You need to start with a clear picture of what you want. I want some answers. But for now, I'll sleep. Tomorrow in court, I'll just have to keep whittling away at the wood until I fashion something halfway usable. Hello, Maya. Woo to you, too. I'm postured, I promise, and I shall hydrate. I hope you're doing well today. Finally on break? And, well, if that doesn't work, I'll use a chainsaw. You know, I've never actually used a chainsaw. I've seen them being used near me, but I've never used them myself. I don't want to now, though. I did once watch a guy, like, over the course of a day, take a hatchet and chop like a tree had fallen over, and he just had this little hatchet, and it was like, and so he just like spent an entire day like hacking through it, through the trunk. Hey, cool kid. Yes, you, trying to look all stoic, staring out the window. Oh, late to try and look detached after that thing you pulled the other day. That wasn't a joke, making that announcement in front of the class. Are you trying to start a detective club or something? What mysteries? Disappearing cleaning supplies? Books not getting returned to the library? Sounds lame. Well, not like that's your fault. Everything's lame. Good luck finding members. Everyone around here already knows what they're going to do after school. And tomorrow, and next year. They're all staring down the barrel of a lucrative career in telling other companies how to provide web services, or whatever the hell this school is supposed to train us for. Lawyer? If you say so, cool kid. Most will probably have robots doing that by the time you graduate, but sure. Law school's supposed to be hard to get into. You'll need a record that doesn't suck. Hitting the club you started shut down because you couldn't get anyone to join probably won't help. Wow, so confident. You really are a cool kid. Morgan, I want to know more about your past. What made you decide to be a lawyer in high school? Oh, I'm so excited to see the adjutant. I want to see the judge. Morgan, please, hold still and relax. This will be over soon. Oh, you were joking about the makeup. Of course I wasn't joking. A face like yours is invaluable in the courtroom. Even covering me in concealer and blush and applying eyeliner will help me appeal to what demographic exactly? You know the names of all this stuff? A modern man. I know the names of many things, including makeup. Once you're not scared of them, they can be fun. That is true. You do have to get past the point of... So is that your eyebrow gel? Yes. It's cakey. Do you want to do the rest? I think some of the jury might find that his wounds make him look rugged. And furthermore, from an aesthetic perspective, leaving some of his buttons undone will... Excuse me? You're clearly a very devoted martial artist, Sosuke. You should be proud to display your well-defined collarbones as the fruit of your efforts. Just hold still. Appearances matter in the courtroom. 95% of defendants who are ever seen in prison garb at trial are found guilty. I don't doubt your tactics work, Morgan. My tactics included getting your suit pressed. You want me to wrinkle it back up? I just find them unpalatable. Trying to get the jury, these civilians, to pity me is shameful. You're worried about honor. Really? You're already a cybernetic ninja, Sosuke. Don't be a stereotype. Don't call other people stereotypes. He's right, Adanai. And he's more of a cybernetic samurai, since he's sworn himself to a wealthy landowning noble. You know what, Sarah? You make a great point. I'm confused, Sosuke. Is it honorable how your family makes their money? Made their money? I'm not talking about morality. I'm talking about having principles. Yes, they're subjective, and yes, they may be hypocritical. The further you stray from the common path, the more you need them. I mean, what about her? What would Sarah barely like if she didn't have tenants to guide her programming? What would Sarah be like if she didn't have tenants? I can only imagine. But some people, believe it or not, enjoy their freedoms. Drift in the middle of the ocean, you're free to go in whatever direction you want. Without a compass, you'll just die of exposure. If you only ever follow exactly what the compass says, you'll sail north until you freeze to death. Point is, if you have a compass, you know which direction north is. Fortune is all that the state is a 1,000,000 megawatt North Star, pointing towards complacency at all times. And the media is like the wind. And without wind, you'll get stuck in the tide. It was a nice try, Sarah. Forget it. Whatever you want with your do whatever you want with your brushes, woman. And you're pouting again. Great. Sarah, just keep him talking. What? If I'm talking, how will you... Trust me, I've done more delicate work before. Sarah, small talk. Gladly, Adanai. Sosuke, do you happen to have any tattoos? Are the jury going to ask you about that or something? They might. Oh. Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a tattoo. A Komainu on my back. Komainu, a guardian dog. You have a tattoo of a dog. It's a fierce guardian deity. Like a Labrador, or like a great, fierce... A big dog! Technically, it's a lion dog, but... Perhaps you should have it changed to some other design, like, say... Like a dragon? There's no switching. The buyer's remorse must be unbearable. There's no buyer's remorse! Lift your chin. You really think they'll feel bad for me because of some cuts and scrapes? You're not good at listening to instructions, are you? Prosecution is to get 12 strangers to agree that you killed 5 men. Each charge has to be unanimous. A perfect score. Oh, that's right. This is our first... Because the last trial we were at was a little bit different. Was there even a jury? Because we were in... Because the only trials that we did in episode 1 were over his suicide and us owning an AI. Technically. Which, both of those might technically be considered civils. No, they're both criminal proceedings, but they never really mentioned a jury in that one. Each charge has to be unanimous. A perfect score. So any chip damage we can do, any doubt we can sow, we take it. And the advantage we're given, we make full use of it. The advantage you're talking about is my face. Are you really not used to this kind of attention, Sosuke? Look, it may be true that at times some women have expressed, and men, no doubt. All I'm saying is that there's a difference between knowing your strengths and powdering up like this. Pretend it's war paint. Is that how you see it? No, but I'm a grown-up. I love Sarah's face. The Like a Dragon reference was pretty good. I need to play the Yakuza games at some point. Thank you for entertaining my questions last night, Sosuke. Did she ask you about your dimensions? This subject might have come up. She's a talkative one, isn't she? Sorry if she kept you up all night. No, she's no trouble, just curious. Reminds me of... we discussed history. Oh, well, she must have put you right to sleep. Adonai, it was his choice of subject. So you read history, Sosuke. Here I seem you spend all your free time frowning in the corners of rooms with your arms crossed. We talked about the Roman Empire for your information. And criminal empires. Nothing too detailed, I hope. But, Sosuke, I still don't understand. What did you mean when you said criminal organizations used to be structured differently? Only that the old ways don't fit in our new 21st century world. Old ways? Oh, he's talking about race, Sarah. Race? I don't understand. Well, that's to be expected. After all, you share 98% of your components with a washing machine. That is an untrue and unflattering comparison. Maybe you do get it. Look, Sarah, names like Mafia, Gokudo, Sanhei, they all come from different cultures, but they all refer to a kind of path. An outsider's path, and the pride that comes with living by your own set of rules. Those were the first criminal organizations. Underground guilds, lending system, militia, secret societies. Oh, sure, they were basically just big friendly charities. And the world got smaller, and people started moving around, and the Mafia changed. Gave way for immigrants to band together to have some kind of power, in places that wouldn't give them a chance at anything remotely respectable. Well, the world kept getting smaller and more complex, and eventually that kind of community couldn't form, let alone survive. Why? Not enough shared experiences. Shared experiences. I see. Fancy way of saying the internet came along. Well, yes, technology negates the physical distance between people. When you spend most of your life online, you end up with more in common with people on the other side of the planet than your own neighbors. Hi, people on the other side of the planet. I hope you're all doing well. That's because of where your recommendations take you. Well, this is more just... not necessarily recommendations, but... So, the immigrant experience disappeared? Fractured, more like. Cracked into a million shards with a hammer. While generational or economic experiences got cemented. The world is more diverse and varied than it's ever been in every sense. Except economically. Wealth inequality is at historical highs, as it has been every year since before I was born. To answer your question, Sarah, that's what binds the members of a criminal organization to one another. Their socioeconomic status. Azukari is at the top. The Blue Bloods lie below us. In each organization, wealth is concentrated among the leadership, of course, but each mafia exists in entirely different strata. I see. I've also read about an organization called the Rust, being active here in the city. Are they in the poverty class, then? Rust? I'd put them in the anarchy class. Glowing tattoos and spiked hair, chrome biceps, and sharpened teeth. Blue Bloods, for all their faults, can put on a tie and go to work. But I can't see the Rust experiencing any kind of social mobility. Careful, Sosuke. If the Rust heard you being in that class, the Rust wouldn't care about anything I said or who I stand with. They don't need any excuse to start ripping open modders and grabbing whatever they can. Things like that happen in the city? Only in the shadows, Sarah. Nowhere you'd ever find yourself. Finally run out of steam. On to the grim business, then. How things go with your investigation? That bad, was it? Nonsense! It was pretty bad. With what I've seen so far, there's no one else who could have killed Chopin. Even if I managed to pick apart all the evidence for the Pod's death, I've got a police officer who will swear on the stand that he arrested Sosuke, standing over his partner's dead body. Oh, what's it going to look like in there? Never been inside a courtroom. Never as a defendant. Wondering how many cops I should expect. And the gallery? A sea of blue. Cheap intimidation tactics. Yes, but I can't fault them for that. Well, not much the same for one of ours. You say that, and yet I don't see any other Cario around. This is a completely different scenario, and the house can't afford to appear beside a cop killer when they're being audited by the state. How understanding of you. Adonai, I think Sosuke is sad that his friends haven't shown up. Good catch. You were hired by Makoto of House Ikaria, weren't you, Adenai? Surely he would want to be in attendance. Don't be absurd. Makoto shouldn't be transported anywhere without a full security team. Besides which, he shouldn't be put through the long elevator ride to this 48th floor just for my sake. What's so bad about an elevator ride? Is he claustrophobic? No. I mean, that is, yes, but you cannot tell anyone, understand? Who the hell would I tell that to? Alright. Look, it's illegal to stream trial proceedings under most circumstances, but I'm sure House Ikaria doesn't mind paying a fine. They'll be watching from somewhere in the courtroom. That would be a waste of the house's coin. But I suppose they might consider keeping an eye on the case's progression, as will the Blue Bloods, no doubt. Adenai, I think Sosuke's spirits have rallied. Really? How can you tell? Hi, Emma! He lifted his gaze and his eyes seemed brighter, as if... Wait, hold on. He lifted his gaze and his eyes seemed brighter. Now try and keep his spirits high. How do I do that? Think of something fun. I need to go talk to someone. Right. Sosuke, shall we arm wrestle? Oh. Good morning, Morgan. Good morning, Emma. You seem tired. Want to push this off till next week? Actually, that sounds... Hey. Sorry. We'll be facing off soon enough. Why not savor the playfulness while we still can? Fair enough. Losing sleep over this case? Not really, no. Things look pretty cut and dry to me. What about you? You toss and turn all night before your big debut as a mob lawyer? Not at all, I slept like a rock. Lucky. I mean, I've been getting good rest, more or less, just having a lot of late nights recently. Late nights? Like going out? No? Oh, good. Good. Would you like to? Just late night chats. Chatting about what? God, look at all of them. Never seen so many cops in one building. Bring a marching band into the courtroom if they could. Theater. Right. Well, theater and trial weren't all that far apart back in ancient Greece. Would hope we'd progressed since then. You don't approve of this show of force, I take it? Is it that obvious? I like to say this because of who Chopin's family is, but we both know that's not what this is really about. The cop is dead. State wants to make it clear that that isn't tolerated. Cops volunteer to defend our laws and protect us citizens. Wrong. Incorrect. Okay, first of all, it's not a volunteer. They get paid. Second of all, they don't do shit. They don't do either of those things. Oh my gosh, I fucking banned off of Twitch so hard. Volunteers don't get paid. Besides, cops, courts, the state, all they can do is enforce the laws, not defend them. Guns and arms can't defend against corrosion anyway. Rot comes from the deep. So you'd rather that the death of a police officer get the same treatment as any other citizen? Suppose that's not possible. They get increasingly fewer chances to play the victim every year, and they never let the opportunity pass. Damn, she's a real one. Emma, I recognize that you're a prosecutor, but I fucking love you. Oh, I guess the best I could hope for is that the state makes the same show of force whenever any crime is committed. If they treated every death like the death of a cop, maybe I could have caught HBK by now. You're still on that? Of course. Shooting deaths are down, but you know how many missing persons cases there are in the city? How many deaths get written up as mod harvesting attacks gone wrong? It's a big city, Morgan. More than enough blood running through the streets for HBK to launder their kills in. You shouldn't joke like that. What, you don't believe me? Just last month, missing person. The report was filed by their employer when they didn't show up for work. 7 days after they had last been seen by anyone. They were just some part-time worker. No close friends, no family. They went to work and they came home, paid their bills, and they disappeared. And no one cared or even noticed until their job didn't get done and those bills went unpaid. No one noticed until they stopped buying in. The body was found a full 2 weeks later. Decay was... what happened to them? Blunt force to the back of the head. Something metallic with a sharp corner, we think. It was a roughly cubed machine part I pulled from a dumpster nearby. It fit snugly in my hand and it caved through his skull like a shovel through snow. Kicked into the bay. Might not even have been weighed down. Just thrown away like a sheep. That's terrible. Did you find any belongings on them? No. So probably a mugging then, right? No, there would have been other injuries from a struggle. And a thief who accidentally committed murder would be too panicked, too terrified to... You know how muggers think now. I can learn how anyone thinks, even HBK, with a robust enough profile. Well, good luck building it all by your lonesome. I'm not working on this by myself. Sorry, right. Did you want to beg for mercy real quick before we begin? What? No, I want to hear more about who you're fraternizing with. You're supposed to be the toxic Yuri with me. Why are you going out with someone else? I mean, what? Where would be the fun in that? Morgan over here getting jealous that Emma's having late night chats with someone besides her. Bye, Maya. I hope it goes well for ya. Thank you for the lurking, for hanging out. The toxic Yuri will be here waiting for you. Hello, 4 p.m. August 15th. Courtroom 48D. Please, for the love of God, give me the judge. Give me the same adjutant. The courtroom gallery is quite full today, isn't it? Awash in a sea of pissed off cops. It doesn't exactly shore up one's confidence, does it? 5 counts of murder would be newsworthy any day of the week, and in the fact that one of the bodies belongs to a cop and a crowd was to be expected. Didn't think they'd be so quiet, though. Maybe they're all just waiting for the firing pistol before they start casting their stones. Don't let it get to you, Sosuke. They're just posturing. Posturing, I understand. I've been in attendance for my share of tense negotiations. The bloodlust in those rooms was always mutual. You don't feel any animosity towards these cops? I'm used to summoning my temper on command. Might have forgotten how to get angry for my own sake. You just worry about the jury. What about the adjutant? They cannot be intimidated by muscle, brimed with cash, or disarmed with fine tailoring. All of which makes them quite favored when it comes to prosecuting organized crime. Have you been in court many times before, then? It's an eye for an eye in the world we operate in. We don't file assault charges, we just answer them. Well, even that has become rare. The house is elevated. Blue Bloods and Rust and all the rest of the rabble are beyond their reach now. When it comes to our peers, we communicate very differently. Must make being a bodyguard pretty boring. I think your work sounds very rewarding and exciting, Sosuke. Thank you. Especially the other day when you were captured and beaten by your rivals. Yes. What I was trying to hint at, Morgan, is that you should not be expecting assistance from the house. Honestly, the thought hadn't crossed my mind. Being on the winning side for once? What the hell would that even feel like? So there won't be any men in black approaching the jury during lunch and offering them paper bags of cash? No. Well, if we do really bad, we won't even make it to lunch, so... Sosuke, what are you staring at? Are you looking for the jury? No, I know they aren't here. It used to be mandated that juries be physically present for court proceedings. People felt it was important they look the accused... Oh wait, no, we did talk about the jury. I remember now. To help them evaluate their character? Why bother? Most people suck at that. Always have. True. Perhaps it was considered part of the punishment then. To have to look them in their eyes. A punishment for the jury or the defendant? Alright, kiddos. Chins up, shoulders out. Show's about to start. I just remembered. Do you think the adjutant's assigned to this particular case? Obviously, it's gonna be me. Obviously. I mean, that's a gimme. Easy. How? It's Heidi. What are the chances? Hi, Heidi. Good to see you. Likes mountain air, apparently. Dislikes happy couples who ask you to take their photo. It's really funny. Pineapple on pizza until proven guilty. Shopping carts always returned. I love you for that. Favorite quote? Let he who was out sin play first or draw first. Wait, what? There should be at least 83 other personalities in the building's network. At least! Well, Your Honor, thank you for presiding so honorably. I do try. Try. 'Cause it's a try all. Tougher crowd than usual. That's not counting all the grim monoliths standing tall out there in the gallery. Who died? 5 people, Your Honor. Yikes, what's the damage? 2 counts of manslaughter, 2 counts of homicide in the 2nd degree, and 1 count of homicide in the 1st degree. Are you trying to get us a set of gold split with all that? What's with the record-setting grind set? The prosecution stands ready, so shall we begin? Let's fucking go. Court is now in session. Now let's crack open those opening statements and get this case summarized. Gladly, Your Honor. People of the court. The defendant in this case is a man named Sosuke Ikaria. He was found at the scene of the crime where 2 men were shot to death. One was stabbed in the neck, another had their skull bashed in, and a police officer was impaled through the back with a sword. Cop-killing piece of shit! Please pardon the outburst from the gallery that your mics may inadvertently pick up. Now, I understand that the scale of violence on display here today may intimidate you, but I want to stress to all of you now that your responsibility here today is neither taxing nor complex. You will hear testimony, you will be shown evidence, and all of it will point towards the truth. The defendant is the only individual who could have possibly committed these crimes. That is a simple fact. And the only one you need to concern yourself with. Oh, she's as cold as ice, but every ice age beckons to kindling. For as ashes call to cinders and embers from champions. The fence is ready, Your Honor. Emma did stick to cold logic, so if I follow her with more of the same, it'll end up falling flat. This gallery will never warm up to us. That can work to our advantage if the jury comes to see these cops as witch hunters eager to start a pyre. It's not like Masters never taught me anything. I know how to do the razzle-dazzle. Chest out, deep breath. My fellow citizens, you were brought here today because an act of violence took place that could only be described as unspeakable. I should know. I was there. I saw the blood on the ground, the bullet holes in the walls. But the horror that radiated in the air. And I also saw where my client was held prisoner. And I knew exactly where he must have stood, because his sweat and blood had stained the tile. My client, a decorated veteran, the man you've seen standing next to me here, not even fooled from his torture, was taken into police custody with lacerations, bruises, internal bleeding, broken bones, and while he was in police custody, he somehow sustained a black eye, a busted lip, a broken nose, and a boxed ear. A puzzle which I'm sure any one of the officers in this gallery today would be happy to testify about. You're gonna let her say that? Yes. Can we object during an opening statement? Much is resting on the outcome of this trial. 5 men lie dead in the morgue. One of them, a police officer. Don't speak his name, you mob lawyer bitch! Hang him up! Hang her too! This is... Hey, we like to have fun in this courtroom, put on a good show. It's because we're on the stage. Any more outbursts from the gallery and I'll clear the entire room. You can all watch the rest on your phones, or peeking through the keyholes like a bunch of sweaty looky-loos. Counselor, let's wrap this up. Yes, Your Honor. The fact of the matter is, on that night, my client was not in any condition to kill anyone. Not 4 hardened criminals, and certainly not a trained police officer. And nothing about my client's background, his associations, or that of the victims can change that fact. So as you listen to all the evidence in this trial, with fairness and impartiality as I know you will strive to, I only ask that you focus on the reality of this horrible crime, and not on the fiction that the people will try to weave for you. Thank you. Decorated veteran? You're telling me you never earned a single commendation? Most push-ups of the day or something? Never mind, suppose it could have gone much worse. You're too kind. I only messed up one part. I was trying to be honest. Crowd got agitated, but he managed to maintain a level head and recover her tempo. Adonai is a master at doing so. I've seen her make comebacks from the most nonsensical mistakes before. In martial arts, they call it an ukemi, a graceful fall. That is basically correct. Well, try not to gracefully fall over when you see the first witness on the docket, Sosuke. What do you mean by that? Your name and occupation for the record. Hi, Makoto! Good to see you. What the fuck are you doing here? Here, in quotations, because obviously virtually. How can that be necessary? Some blathering idiot in the courtroom doesn't already know how I am. They don't deserve... I know, but you consider it if only for the sake of ceremony. Ceremony is important and should be respected. Very well. I am Akota Ikaria, of House Ikaria. My occupation is that of a student. Try not to look so smug about it when you blatantly lie. Right, of course. And your position with the Ikaria Financial Group? It's not salaried. Must I really declare it here? Hard to imagine why the noble house of Ikaria is getting audited. Sosuke, are you alright? Can he see us? He can see me, Rockford, and the adjutant. Witnesses testifying don't really need much else. So he's safe. Yes, Sosuke, he's safe. Like he was yesterday. Probably sitting right where I left him, or standing on a box. And the hologram's giving him a boost so we can see over the stand. That's good. The boost to his height, that he's safe at home. I'm sorry that he can't see you, Sosuke. Don't be. After how horribly I failed in my... I'd like you to speak a bit about the events of August 13th. By the last time you saw the defendant, Sosuke Ikaria. I'm here today, not physically, but here nonetheless, as a courtesy. That does not mean I will flap my gums like some sort of flapping gum puppet. Permission to treat the witness as hostile, incoming, Emma Rockford, raking a spoiled brat over the coals. That's almost worth the price of admission alone. I understand. It was a traumatic experience, I'm sure. Anyone of normal upbringing would barely be able to recall a single detail, let alone the days full of events. Normal upbringing? I should probably dismiss you so you can get back to your summer studies. Summer studies? Like some common waif? Waif? That's quite the vocab pull. I didn't know they taught that in State Basic. Basic? Was I mistaken? Oh, god damn, she's good. She knows exactly what buttons to push. Fuck, dumbass kid. Listen well, Madam Rockford, as I demonstrate to you exactly how misguided you are about my powers of retention. Please do. Play it like a damn fiddle. Why wasn't she mentioned during any of our trial preparations? Hi, Emma. It's good to see you. Exercises by subject seem not to hear the question. Adonai has only won against her once. So far. Every hot streak starts somewhere. Hot streak. I really am going to prison, aren't I? Where shall I start? As far back as you can. A simple task. For the past year, members of the organization, most commonly referred to as the Blue Blood Mafia, have been making attempts on my life. I still had lunch money or something? I am the primary beneficiary of my grandfather, Daisuke Ikaria's will. In common parlance, I am the sole heir to the Ikaria Financial Group. You could buy so much lunch? The group you know as the Blue Bloods must have been jealous of my family's financial foresight for decades. I am merely the most recent target of their impotent attempts to nip at our heels. And 2 days ago, on August 13th, how impotent was their attempt then? I was leaving a meeting held on the upper floors of Crane Tower. My security detail escorted me to the elevators, where we would then proceed down to the canopy access floors. This was all planned out in advance by my head of security, Sosuke Ikaria. But the elevator became stuck with unnatural timing. When Sosuke pried the doors open, we saw that we were stuck between the 62nd and 61st floors. Pried open with a tool. Leading the witness, Your Honor. He didn't need a tool to open the doors. His bare hands were more than sufficient. Help Sosuke out here, kid. We submit to evidence the defendant's Akita Type 2 military-grade spinal mod, designed to enhance strength, endurance, and reflexes for high-intensity combat scenarios. Yes, sir, it is so admitted. What happened next? The decision was made that we'd crawl out onto the 61st floor and head for the service elevators. But once Sosuke and I exited, the elevator started up. It was a trap. We had been cut off from the rest of my detail. You were isolated and defenseless. That must have been, hardly defenseless. Kid, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're doing. Being goddamn fiddle indeed. You really think my personal head of security wouldn't be armed? He had Yoru. Don't tell me. You named your sword. All great swords have names. Thank you, Sarah. Very well put. Let the record show that the witness has identified Exhibit B3 as belonging to the defendant. His personal sword, Yoru, taken along with another murder weapon. Yeah. Nope, that's unfortunate. This sword was recovered by the police in a known blue blood den in the lower wards, found impaled into the body of Tariq Chapin, and forensics has shown that the only fingerprints on it are those of the defendant. It's no time for you to disown it, Sosuke. You understand nothing about a swordsman's heart, eye to eye. Once again, it is your pure illegal that has the right of it. Perhaps she should be leading my defense. This now turns into a fencing competition, and I'll gladly defer to you two. So you, Sosuke, and Yoru were on the 61st floor together. What happened next? When we arrived at the service elevator, Sosuke called them, and then they made it shine. I didn't clearly see what happened next, to tell the truth. Figures emerged from around the corners. They were aiming weapons at me. A red dot shone on my chest. And then Sosuke was there, and a needle was sticking out of his arm. Yoru glinted. Sosuke had drawn it in the blink of an eye. Something glanced off and dropped to the floor. I saw a syringe at my feet. Yoru's sheath was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. That's clearly a key piece of testimony. Let's play it back 5 times. What matters is he pushed me back into the elevator with Yoru's sheath. How I landed is irrelevant and should be stricken from all public records. The only other thing I saw was Sosuke's back. He slammed his hand against the elevator's control panel, and the door shut. That's the last time you saw the defendant. The decision was made that I should get on a VTOL as soon as possible, but much of my detail stayed behind to assess what had happened. Yes, they were very helpful to building security and recovering Exhibit 5C, this hypodermic needle gun. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this was Creek's gun. Okay, good to know. What kind of bonehead would leave evidence like that behind? A bonehead in a rush, perhaps, Your Honor. It does appear to have exhausted its gas canister, so it may have outlived its usefulness. I take it that this weapon is a match for the projectile needles found in the room where my client was restrained? Correct. Others exactly like them were recovered from the scene on the ambush as well. Makoto, did you see the faces of the men who attacked you? Ha! All too clearly. I can tell you every detail of their roughshod countenances. Ah, that sounds like a good bit of testimony. Hit it! A pineapple-head-like man in a raincoat-clad hooligan came at us first. He aimed at me, but Sosuke got between us and blocked every shot. With Yoru, he could have closed the distance, but then a dark-eyed scoundrel approached from the right. And a man with a ridiculous pompadour took advantage of that distraction. Yeah, that all sounds right. I'll never forget the faces of those cowards. They tried to kill me! I mean, I'm so sorry to say that they technically weren't trying to kill you. I don't know why they could have been trying to kill the witness. Not with non-lethal projectiles. Is this really important? They fired a lot of them. Witness doesn't weigh that much. Don't try it. This attack was clearly planned with the intent of capturing Makoto alive. Meaning what? That 4 of this case's victims were actually soft-hearted pacifists? There's nothing soft-hearted about what they did to my client after capturing him. Using tools they clearly originally planned to use on the witness. So they're sadists? I'm getting confused here. So is the defense, Your Honor. What matters is that the witness had identified the defendant's captors as the 4 blue blood victims that he is accused of murdering. Makoto did establish that much, but something about this attack still bothers me. Emma put Makoto on the stand specifically to identify the victims. Is it possible that the men who attacked them weren't Creek's pawn? The problem is, based on the gun, where is it? Fingerprints on the weapon match those of Creek. I don't. Oh, I'm suddenly uncertain. I'm suddenly incredibly uncertain because it's just like, okay, now's when the game really starts. I think you're right. I think they were. I don't disagree, Your Honor. The men who attacked Makoto and took Sosuke captive are the same ones who ended up dead that night. But 2 questions do occur to me. Why were you safe on that service elevator? Sosuke surely collapsed the very moment it shut. Wouldn't these men have pursued you by any means necessary? That is, I can answer that, Your Honor. When the police inspected the scene, they found that the control panel for calling that elevator on the 61st floor was broken. Smashed, in fact. The attackers would have had to manually pry open the doors to even attempt to chase after Makoto, and that it would take remarkable modded strength. Did you mash the button that forcefully, Sosuke? I may have used more force than necessary. Wasn't exactly trying to hold myself back at the time. Hit the controls hard enough to break them. So the Blue Bloods couldn't pursue you further, and instead elected to take Sosuke captive. Sosuke is in the hand is better than Makoto in the bush. The head of Makoto's security would surely have made for an invaluable source of information for planning future attacks, were he made to talk. Are you denying that? No, but I would like to ask the witness one other question. Why did you get off the elevator in the first place? What I mentioned in the lobby earlier, that's... We're not be picking up on it for you, but from where I'm standing, I can help but overhear my client groaning about how badly he failed you. That's not evidence or testimony, and so it should be stricken from the record. But we get the idea. So was bailing out early the defendant's big brain idea. As head of my personal security detail, such a decision is ultimately his to make. However, that decision may have been influenced by his knowledge of the fact that I am not especially comfortable in enclosed spaces. The hell are you doing? Are you trying to humiliate him? In part. I'm also trying to insult you. Had we simply waited, we would have remained safe, but I was not comfortable and felt very warm. So it was not a tactical failure on Sosuke's part, per se, just an error of judgment. Counselor Morgan, what's up? You can disconnect the call, ask me another question. Ask me how bravely Sosuke defended me. So that's your angle. Can't all be as naturally gifted at extracting valuable testimony out of spoiled brats as Emma, but I can follow her example. Insult their pride, and these Ikaria snap back, as reliable as any knee-jerk reaction. And in Makoto's case, with infinitely less resistance than if I had simply asked him to testify. It's usually the lawyers who do the asking and the witnesses to do the answering. This is not very realistic. We asked that the witness testify for the court in more detail, but exactly how valiantly Sosuke fought off the attackers. Then I guess the people don't object, even though it seems super extra. No, the people don't object, Your Honor. Emma's playing passively. Either I'm onto something here, or I'm walking into a trap. Screw it. I'll lean on the former. Sosuke was outnumbered from the beginning, and protecting me the whole time. It didn't matter that we were ambushed, or that the Blue Bloods had projectiles. Sosuke took up Yoru in both hands and swatted the needles out of the air like a graceful swatter. He fought off 4 attackers, and without sustaining a single injury. Mock him if you dare for being captured. That's not a failure, not by any general's definition of the word. Makoto described Sosuke's heroism. It's almost more impressive the second time. He definitely fought without a care for himself, and there's evidence to show it. The fact that he was injured. Please tell me I hit the right one. Oh, thank God. Unscathed is the last thing anyone called my client of the events of that day. One look at his medical data from when he was arrested will tell you that much. What are you getting at, counselor? The defendant's injuries were sustained at the Blue Blood's den, not a Crane Tower. Police didn't find even 1 drop of blood anywhere near that service elevator. Well, that is a miracle. A bloodless ambush. But the fact that no blood was found makes it all the more painfully obvious what actually happened to that elevator panel. The elevator panel... My client broke half the bones in his left hand, smashing it up. Did you really? I might have. There was a lot of adrenaline at the time. Did you not form a proper fist? Was your wrist not in alignment with your forearm? As I said, Sarah, there's a lot of adrenaline. Do you deny that his medical record clearly shows his left hand was broken? Your Honor, what does it matter that the defendant broke his left hand closing that elevator? Changes nothing about the witness's testimony. This feels important. Right? Like, especially the sword. Blah, 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 blah. The right hand of Sosuke Ikaria. Damn it. Not the left. But does this change the testimony any? Does it actually do anything? Because his testimony... Well, you know what? We're not gonna get anywhere just by stepping around it. Of course it does. How so? Try to think before you speak, Counselor. This student has enough trouble staying focused as is. Well, maybe true that this wrinkle doesn't change the witness's testimony, but it does change the nature of the evidence you had him identify for the court. The katana? Yoru. Yoru. Its name is Yoru. We get it. Do you have a point, Counselor? There's something odd about the katana that's been entered into evidence. Something that makes no sense, given what we've learned about the outcome of this ambush. Namely, the sword's... blood? The prince? The sword's... How can that be the case if no blood was shed at Crane Tower? There's enough blood shed in the ward, including the... Okay, let me put... Okay, that was my problem. Was the fingerprints that were found on the sword... Okay, damn it, I was right. I was right the first time in thinking that it was the prince, and I just didn't put it, because I'm a dork. You're contradicting yourself, Counselor. We've already discussed how your client's left hand that broke. Still contradicting about his using his right arm to wield the blade. It can be like this because Sosuke has two hands. People are correct. The sword found at the scene of the crime has my client's right hand fingerprints on its handle, despite the fact that this witness just testified that Sosuke was swinging it with both hands. Like a graceful swatter, specifically. Oh, yeah, he did say that. So the little tyke must remember. It was a chaotic situation where he feared for his life. The court should hardly expect him to have kept track of such an inconsequential detail. Have you already forgotten my magnanimous powers of recollection? Her tactics from earlier backfire. I'll have you know I can recite all my subordinates' birthdays down to the hour. Write them all down so I can calculate their moon signs later. It doesn't matter whether the witness is mistaken about Sosuke's grip, Your Honor. But we have a much bigger issue to address. Why this sword has only my client's fingerprints on it? Makoto testifies that Sosuke wielded this katana in his defense, an act of bravery that ended with my client face down on the floor of Crane Tower. He later woke up, held captive in the lower wards. I'll take the obvious here and say while he was unconscious, he was moved. And so the sword we have in the record must have also been handled. Oh, this one's obvious. Max it out. Let me raise that blind. Give me all those fucking chips. No, I'm gonna eat those. Our poor victim Creek, of course. What do you mean? Sosuke was knocked unconscious at Crane Tower. That means that someone else must have brought his sword down to the lower wards. And the only people who had the opportunity to do so would have been his captors. You mean his victims? Withdrawn. Any comments that should not... The defense is forgetting a fairly simple fact, Your Honor. There's more than one way to hold a sword. A worm? In case the defense needs it clarified, Creeks could have simply held the sword by its scabbard. No, he couldn't. No, he fucking couldn't. Because Makoto had it. But that's not possible, Your Honor. Makoto has already testified that Sosuke left the sword scabbard with him when he thrust him back into the elevator. I see. And since a cursed sword can be resheathed until it's tasted blood. Yes, Your Honor, very well said. We would have found the scabbard at the Blue Blood's den if Creeker's men had taken it with them. Instead, I imagine Makoto took it home. You think he took key evidence from his own assault and kept it from the police? Of course I did! As if I would trust officers of the law to properly handle a family heirloom as precious as your sheath. Impressive insight, I deny. But what does this actually mean? Is there some mistake with how the evidence was handled? There's no mistakes here. This is all done with intention. The intention to frame my client. By putting his fingerprints onto that sword after the real culprit had already handled it. She says, being that real culprit that already handled it, because that's exactly what happened. What a load of bullshit! And the crowd goes wild, though it does make a certain kind of sense. Because it's the truth. I did wipe that katana's handle down after removing it from Trey's throat. Sosuke just happened to be foolish enough to pick it up himself afterwards. It's frustrating having to keep all my best cards up my sleeve this time around. Oop. But the look on his face when I do get to toss them out is... The people are more than ready to counter, if it pleases the court. Oh? The defense has made an admirable effort to barrel ahead with this theory. Admirable, but predictable, with the Foundation this week charging ahead and hoping the court won't notice is the only option. Let us speak of the facts. This Creek character led a targeted ambush on the heir to House Ikaria, knowing he'd be guarded by a full security team. The Blue Bloods successfully sabotaged and intercepted Makoto's elevator at the precise floor they wanted, meaning they knew exactly where he'd be and when. And they brought with them drugs capable of disabling a veteran with military-grade mods. Planning and attention to detail may be foreign concepts to the defense, they should at least be able to recognize them. So is the defense seriously suggesting that after all this preparation, Creek's pod wouldn't bother to wear gloves? Yes. And I know for a fact he wasn't wearing gloves. Because the goddamn needle gun has his fingerprints on it, you motherfucker. I'm glad you asked so nicely. Once again, fucking full-on max out that blind. I will bet all my fucking money on this. We don't need to speculate about whether they were gloves or not. Not when we have Creek's fingerprints on a weapon recovered from the crime scene. That's a pretty good point, actually. I guess these guys were sloppier than we thought. Those blackguards were barefaced when they attacked us. Idiots. As if there wouldn't be repercussions for their actions. At least they could have done was disguise themselves. Strike that from the record, Your Honor. Along with any future comments that suggest the Ikaria would want revenge against these victims. I was only speaking a plain truth. Creek was their leader, correct? If even Creek wasn't wearing gloves, it's hard to imagine that none of them got their prints onto Yoru. Unless the sword was, indeed, wiped down at some point afterwards. Like right around the time the true culprit was looking for Sosuke to take the fall. It's a spicy theory. It's just that, Your Honor, a theory. A far-fetched, unstable theory that stacks presuppositions upon each other. Like a flapjack chef substituting quantity for quality. I'll rephrase. This inconsistency is easily answered without jumping through the defense's absurdly arranged hoops. That's a little better. We already know that the Blue Bloods had successfully taken down the Ikaria's head of security. And we already know that they went out of their way to take the defendant captive despite him not being their original target. Furthermore, as the defense has belabored, we know that they decided to take a useless piece of steel with them from the scene of the crime. Useless? And we ask why, the answer is obvious. Because orcas are superstitious and immature. They wanted a trophy. And what is there to do with a trophy other than polish it? The cloth from Creek's death. Damn it! Oh, Emma fucking Rockford, you goddamn genius! I knew that this was gonna come bite us in the ass later. The fucking cloth that I knew that they said that Emma had pained in the arcs, but no one knew why. This is why. I knew she flagged in the arcs for some reason, but she thought this many steps ahead. The defense is correct. The sword was wiped down before Sosuke took it up as his murder weapon, by the very same victims he'd go on to claim with it. That's a completely logical explanation, damn it. How do we respond to that, Adonai? Oh shit, are we fucked? We don't. I can't. It makes perfect sense. Does that mean she described what's actually happened? Not at all. I wiped off the sword myself because my prints are on it. Same as I wiped my prints off of every other... Right. I can't find fault with Emma's conclusion. I need to find fault with the logic that led her there. I see. And how do you do that? By adjusting my aim. As the people say, Your Honor, no one's fingerprints but my client's are on the murder weapon. That only makes sense if he's guilty or being framed. And there's no evidence to suggest that he's been framed, because his captors had valid reasons for wiping off the sword. But here's the thing. They did have valid reason to wipe off the sword, but that's not the murder weapon, I'm afraid. But also, they had valid reasons to wipe off the blade. Would they have wiped down the handle? Is that a thing that they would have done? That's right, this one has Sosuke's left hand, but his hand was broken. This gun is the murder weapon I'm referring to. What? The police are confident that the Mag US is the gun that was used to kill Tanks and Creek. And your client was arrested with it on his person. And it had your client's prints on it. But it was owned by Tanks. The record shows that Sosuke's are the only fingerprints on that doohickey. So that means this Tanks guy has never laid a finger on his own gun? It's entirely possible that Tanks simply likes to polish his gun too. Phrasing. So he was polishing it right up until the moment his captor grabbed it and used it against him? More phrasing! Was it before or after his internal bleeding that my client took the gun off Tanks without him even laying a finger on it first? Before or after being tortured that he got the gun with no struggle? I could have wrestled over the gun while I was out of reach. Tanks had no injuries besides the hole in his chest. How did he get into a struggle and not get so much as a scratch? The likelihood of that scenario would seem to come down to the order in which each individual died, no? Yes, Your Honor. Then perhaps you ought to hear some more detailed testimony about that, of course. The defense has no more questions for this witness, Your Honor. We don't object. Hold on, what are you saying? Okie dokie then, closing the connection. I said wait! It's Sosuke! Makoto seemed to be in good spirits, wouldn't you say? Yeah, he was his usual irreproachable self. But also, we didn't point out that it was his left hand print! Idiots! Dumbasses! All of us! Morgan! Point out that the gun only has prints from his left hand. But how can he find something about that to be depressed over? I'm ashamed that he testified at all. His appearance here runs the risk of sullying the house's visage with my mistakes. I couldn't exactly slip the subpoena by claiming he had homework to do. You of all people should understand that the house doesn't have to appear in court if it truly doesn't want to. A fine levied on your account is always preferable to a smudge staining your reputation. But he did testify, yes, and he no doubt went directly against one or more family elders to do so. He should not be incurring debts for my sake. So he put himself at a disadvantage for you. Do you think Makoto would want you to apologize? Or do you think he'd want you to thank him? He's young. Doesn't know what he wants yet. Not how that works, but okay. It's fine. Left-handed prints. Hi, Miss Sato. It's good to see you again. Been a while. Yumi Sato, medical examiner. Hi, Biscuit. How you doing? Hello, my baby. Can I help you, sir? Good baby. Yumi. Sarah. Dr. Sato, we're very grateful to your work. Medical examiner. Versions on live show tickets. Very easy to sanitize. We're very grateful for your work sorting through the large number of reports related to this case. Yeah, 5 bodies, all high priority. Had my head underwater for a good while there. We'd prefer not to tax you with repeating every grisly detail, but if you could, would you please walk the court through the time of death for each victim and the manner in which they were determined? Biscuit's here. I have Biscuit in my lap. Hello, baby boy. Look at all these lesbians. Aren't they amazing? Alright, from the top, Anchor Ton, aka Tanks, and a mismatch of street legal and chop mods on his forearms. None of them particularly up to date, but they were all working, and they did monitor his heart rate. Tank's heart stopped at 9:44 p.m. Cause of death was... The slug had a hollow design, intended to shatter inside the target. It's no mistaking that he was killed by his own gun, the Mag US, from a distance of 1 to 2 meters. Next up is Seung-min Trey Trent. He also had relatively low-end mod installed, and they show his heart stopping at 9:45 p.m. Died from exsanguination, blood loss resulting from a laceration across his neck by a sharp metal blade. That wasn't the only injury his body sustained, though, was it? No, it was not. Posthumously, his skull was... Heavens Miller Smile received a puncture wound straight through his jugular vein. Then the blade was withdrawn, exacerbating blood loss, and he was likely unconscious. Hello? What happened to my audio? Testing. Okay, that was weird. And he was likely unconscious within seconds of falling to the ground. Miller had mods, but had evidently gone to great lengths to remove all monitoring tech from them. and he was not found with any electronics on his person. Using purely medical means, I narrowed his time of death down to a window of 10 minutes, between 9:40 and 9:50 p.m. Even though I killed him third and he was the second to die. Hi, Biscuit. Hello, my baby boy. That brings us to Creek. Yes, like tanks, Lakers Creek Kristoff was shot once with a hollow slug from a distance of 1 to 2 meters. However, the slug penetrated just beneath their solar plexus and failed to completely shatter when it impacted a low-end spinal brace mod. As a result, Creek didn't die immediately. It is my medical opinion that Creek would have slowly bled out over the course of about 5 minutes. Their mod did not have biomonitoring capabilities, so like what Miller, I've done what I can to narrow down the time of death to a 10-minute window between 9:40 and 9:50. So he was barely modded, and he stayed conscious the whole time anyway. But we do have one other context clue to work with. This data pattern was found very close to Creek's body, and technicians confirmed that it requires Creek's fingerprints for most functions. That means it's unlikely that anyone else would have been able to manipulate it. And we found the last action taken on it was an attempted dark card transaction that failed at 9:44 p.m. What could cause a dark card transaction to fail? Either they hit cancel or the card itself was jostled, interrupted the scan. As if the data pad was suddenly dropped? Speculation. How much qualification does one need to understand that card readers can be finicky, Your Honor? Sure enough. Chip, swipe, pin, tap. Let's let me buy the damn balloon animal, you clown. So, taking that digital evidence into account, Creek must have been shot almost at the exact same time as Tanks. Thank you. There's one more body you examined for this case, yes? Officer Tariq Chopin. I didn't need to make a determine his time of death. As a patrol officer, he had a standard suite of police-issued biomonitors. So we know that Officer Chopin's heart stopped at 10:14:04 p.m. triggering an automatic 10-999 alert, officer down. Lighting up that crime scene like a firecracker and ensuring every cop in the city would come running, royally pissed and safety's off. Chapman was impaled through his back by a long, thin blade. It severed his aorta, and as a result, he died instantly. To summarize, then, we can conclude that Tank's gun was taken from him before 9:44 p.m. He and Creek were then shot with it. Their attacker, out of ammunition, took up a sword and stabbed Miller in the throat. That's what you wish! No, that was a knife. Before slicing into Trey's neck. This individual then proceeded to posthumously crush Trey's skull by striking it so hard they shattered a baseball bat, as Creek bled to death on the other side of the room. Finally, when Officer Chapman entered the scene, they stabbed him in the back, before finally being apprehended by Officer Rogers. That's all correct, as far as we understand it. So now Rockford's put together a timeline. It's probably helpful for the jury, putting it all in chronological order, but have we actually learned anything new about the culprit's actions? We have. Emma brought her on the stand to establish the culprits. She wanted to establish the starting time of all the murders. Wasn't that pretty obvious just from one autopsy? Tanks died first, and his mods confirmed it. Well, yes, but the fact that Tanks and Creek died first, combined with where the shooter stood, tells us in what part of the room the culprit must have started their killing spree. Correct. Because Creek and Tanks died first, and they were both shot from within 1 to 2 meters, we know the culprit must have started taking action right by the desk, and not by the door to the holding room. Indeed. So the likelihood that my client broke out from there is not very high at all. Woo! Yes, an abundance of DNA evidence establishes that the defendant was indeed held in the other room, but clearly he didn't remain there. His captors must have taken him out to question him in the main room, and dragged him in front of the desk where Tank's gun would be within reach. You're the one who's reaching. You have evidence to the contrary? A better explanation for how he got out of where he's being held? Can't exactly propose that the real killer set him free as a scapegoat. The forensics are clear. My client was gagged and bound in that room. But clearly they had to cut him loose to question him. A mistake that ended up costing them their lives. Do you think that's true, Sosuke? I'm not positive, of course. My body is telling me I was held in that room from the time I woke up until I got myself free. Emma's theory about the Blue Bloods being dumb enough to let Sosuke near a gun isn't perfect, but still a theory. Don't have jack shit to counter with because not even Sosuke knows how I let him out. If the defense has no objections, Then they'll just have to take this L and meekly move on to their cross-examination. Adonai, that made you sound very feeble. You've developed a habit of only using we when I'm winning. Fix it. That made us sound very feeble? Why do I have to get roped in? Emma's already established a timeline and an order of events. I can pick at the details, but she's close enough to the truth already. I know the truth firsthand, that every death except Chopin. In his case, Emma and I are on even footing. So what's my advantage? What do I know that everyone else is mistaken about? Right, the murder weapons. Everyone thinks Miller was stabbed in the neck by a katana. I'm the only one who knows my knife was there. There's got to be a way I can use that information to my advantage here, without revealing that I have it or how I got it. I'm walking a razor's edge here. At least it's thematically appropriate. The defense is ready to begin our cross-examination, Your Honor. I want to know about... I'm going to specifically ask about Miller's wound and see if it matches up with the sword. Did you visit the crime scene? I did not. Have not. Photos and other ARCs data was provided to me to aid in my examination. Surely the defense isn't objecting to a little virtual work. Of course not! After all, had anything been added or removed from the crime scenes, the ARCs would show it. There's no fooling it once it's been set up. Victims Trey and Miller were both attacked with a blade. Exactly how fast did they die? Trey had his throat slashed, and blood found on his hands suggests that he had time to reach up to his neck in response. But he would have quickly stumbled back and collapsed onto the floor, dead. Miller wouldn't have lost much blood at the moment his neck was punctured. For that kind of wound, the weapon acts as a stopper. But once the stopper was removed, he would have lost consciousness in mere seconds. And while the blade was still in his neck, if it was there for more than a second, he too would have reflexively reached up, presumably to try and grab the blade. Is there any evidence that he tried to grab the razor-sharp katana lodged into his neck? He had his own blood on his right hand, but there are no cuts on it, because he grabbed the knife's handle, not a sword's edge. So it stands to reason that the blade was drawn very quickly. By the time his hand reached up to his neck, it must have been gone. One of many small inconsistencies with this katana theory I can shine a light on. Will that be enough? Stabbing Miller's neck so precisely and so fast, that would be quite the feat of swordsmanship. Stating a conclusion, Your Honor, comments withdrawn, quick as a blade. Have you ever seen a stab wound like the one that killed Miller, inflicted by a long blade, and wielded in one hand by a man experiencing heavy blood loss? No, I can't say that I have. Now, whether that maneuver is impressive or improbable, I'm a doctor, not a fencer. And Sosuke doesn't own rapier. Did you find that the stab wound on Miller's neck fit the sword that the police recovered? Approximately. That doesn't sound conclusive. The entry wound is slightly small. Biscuit. The entry wound is slightly smaller than I would expect for such a precise stab. Sword hand must have barely trembled, but it's within tolerable. Biscuit. Calm. Calm down. You're starting to go into crazy mode. You're staring at me. What's that? Are you going crazy? Are you crazy mode? You crazy modin'? My baby? But it's within tolerable ranges. Furthermore, DNA on the tip of the sword is a match for Miller. Damn it, just because I happened to drag it across where his blood had dripped. Oh, Biscuit Boy. Stop trying to eat my wire. Well, stop trying to play with my wires. It's not even a matter of eating them. You just like, there's a thing here. I'm going to play with that with my paws. And I'm like, no, just let me stay in my lap all nice and calm. It's okay. And of course, there isn't any other implement at the seam that fits the wound better. No, of course there isn't. Stabbing Miss Miller's neck so precisely and so... Wait. Up, Biscuit. Calm. Okay, we already did that. Let me think. Two individuals suffered gunshot wounds. You found that both matched the MAG US firearm that's been entered into evidence? I did. Shrapnel is by nature unpredictable, but the scale of destruction does make it pretty hard to mistake for anything else. Didn't exactly learn anything new there. Biscuit. Calm. Baby boy! Off he goes. Could you speak a little bit more about the manner of Officer Chopin's death? Well, to reiterate, his body was found with a katana stuck through his back. It had punctured his heart, killing him. There was massive blood loss at the scene. At least in part because the wound in question was agitated, I suppose I'd say. What do you mean by agitated? Honestly, as though after impalement, the blade was moved around inside the wound, as if it had become stuck and something was struggling to remove it. London mentioned that Sato found this wound odd, but to hear her specifically say the blade had become stuck, that's interesting. Thank you, Dr. Sato. Biscuit. Hey. Get out. No, come here. Get back there. If only I could permanently block off the behind my computer. But no, there's just a little bit of space for him to go, pause. I think I can speak for us all when I say I found that very enlightening. Biscuit, don't you dare. Blackjack. Boy. Dr. Sato, you just testified that Officer Chopin was impaled from behind. Did this occur on the spot where his body was found? Yes, it did. The body shows no signs of being moved. I'm curious then. What was there for the sword to get stuck on? Well, if Chopin was in the center of the room, standing upright, it wouldn't have gotten caught in the air, right? Bone, perhaps? Surely you examined the wound inside and out. Did you see marks on his rib cage where the blade had caught? No, I didn't. Then it stands to reason that the blade didn't get caught on anything inside Mr. Chopin. Biscuit boy, baby boy, what you doing? It got caught on the floor. Pardon. You need to take greater advantage of the arcs, Counselor Morgan. Learn to flip things on their head. Entire rooms, if need be. If you had, you'd see that there's a clear indentation in the floor that lines up perfectly with Mr. Chopin's wound. How did you think the tip of the sword got chipped? You're saying the sword got stuck in the floor? That's what the facts are saying. Do you disagree? Biscuit? I don't necessarily disagree, no. If Chopin was impaled and fell face first, it makes perfect sense for the sword to get caught in the floor as he collapsed on top of it. We can conclude that after being impaled, Chopin fell over with the sword still in his torso, driving the sword into the ground. Then his attacker aggravated the wound by trying to retrieve the sword from the corpse. Does that sound right? What? Are you asking me? Sort of, asking the room, I guess? Well, I believe I can answer. What you're describing makes sense, Dr. Sato, but only up until we consider again the fingerprints on the sword handle. If my client really did impale Tariq Chopin and get his sword stuck doing so, why would he try to retrieve it with only one hand? Because he had to retrieve it with one hand. You yourself already elucidated that the defendant's left hand was broken when he destroyed the elevator panel in Crane Tower. His left hand was too damaged for him to even grip a sword. That does square with this piece of evidence. That doesn't square with this piece of evidence. Doesn't, yes. Perfect. Awesome. Give me this. Nope, hold on. I need to be smarter than that. Money, please. The Magus. How can my client's left hand be too damaged to grip his sword, and yet also capable of gripping the Magus? That oddity is hardly impossible to explain. We've already determined that the Magus was fired twice before the sword was used at all. Firing such a weapon with a broken hand surely rendered his left useless. It's difficult to wield a sword with a damaged hand, isn't it, Sosuke? Historically, even the loss of a pinky on your non-dominant hand was considered enough to render you relatively defenseless. Is that why Yakuza would offer to cut off fingers as recompense for offenses? That's right, sir. In fact, cut the chatter and save the history lesson. He had to pull the sword loose with one hand because his left was useless. Looking at all the forensics pulled from the katana, that's... Your Honor, the people claim that my client had to use one hand to retrieve the sword because his other hand was disabled. But does the evidence actually suggest that? What do you mean? Forensics performed on the katana found my client's right-hand fingerprints on the handle. But what grip are the prints a match for? Let me just give it a quick think here as I meticulously analyze the pattern. The position of each finger. A normal grip! The grip is normal! You mean to say the thumb is facing towards the blade, Your Honor? Well, yeah, but isn't it easier to say he held it like normal? If my client only held the sword with his right hand normally, Your Honor, that would mean he held the handle like that even as he tried to jostle the blade free from the floor it was impaled in. Which is far from impossible. But if, Your Honor, the court has questions about exactly how the defendant was positioned when he's found standing above Officer Chopin's corpse, I believe the people's next witness will be able to answer all of them. I can only mean it's finally time to face off with the arresting officer, aka the guy who actually killed Chopin. I'm sure of it. Chopin's partner. Very well. Then let us summon to the stand. Null, name not found. What? What? Is that a family or a given name? What? Wait, even Emma's confused? Yeah, we got one big ol' error right here, and it's a classic. A witness not found. Literally. He ain't here. What? He's had hours to get here. What the hell can he possibly be? Her star witness is a no-show. Is this good news or bad news? Like hitting the jackpot on the world's sketchiest slot machine. Feels good, but you get the feeling that the staff is going to make you pay for it. Idiotic. Pay for it when? Fine, I'll finish it myself. Right about now. Perhaps it's for the best then, Your Honor. We can save the court the trouble by wrapping up things here and now. The facts are simple and the defense has failed to refute them. Thus, the people call for summary judgment. Already? The defendant is the only one with the prints on his gun. He's the only one with prints on the katana. His own employer testified to this court that he was attacked and captured by 4 of the 5 victims. He was found and arrested standing over the body of a dead cop, before 2 more officers arrived and secured the scene. Hosby Reyes in London, she's referring to. As the only living person left at the scene of the crime, there was no one else who could have committed these murders. She's on a tear, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining, but it's only because she's on tilt. She was thrown off by her witness flaking. It's caused her to overstep. She has fired off a lot of claims in quick succession. Which is the weakest one? Where do I counterattack? I'm going to counterattack the police testimony, I think. That seems like the best shot for me, to be honest, because that is the weakest thing that we have. The police testimony she's referenced to hasn't been presented to the court yet. But if it's not as if Rogers could be lying about arresting Sosuke. Oh, okay, well that's not exactly why I was grabbing that one. I was doing it for a different reason. I was saying police testimony because he could have been lying about other things. Like, his body cam was off, and among other things. Anyways. She just claimed that Sosuke is the only one who committed these murders. She can't possibly prove that. She can't prove that there wasn't anyone else there that night, because I actually was. And unlike her, I can prove the possibility of another party being present without having to reveal their identity. The people are mistaken, Your Honor. My client was the only other person there that night. And there's evidence to show it. The dark card, right? The dark card would be proved. What is that? The dark card found lodged in the Creek's datapad? That's right! It's the perfect payment option when neither you nor the business you frequent like attaching names to faces. We've already discussed that within moments of Creek's death, the transaction was being attempted on his datapad. A transaction made using this data card. But whatever for? Perhaps some of the handful of illicit substances that were found at the scene of the crime. Oh crap, yeah, I almost forgot. These guys were drug dealers. And drug dealers get customers, Your Honor. Customers that can be very temperamental when things go south. Are you trying to suggest that these killings were the result of a drug deal gone wrong? I mean, they sort of were. A drug deal made in person at a blue blood stronghold? Dark cards require a passkey and a fingerprint. Card would be useless if its owner wasn't physically present for the transaction. A transaction that might be abruptly cancelled if tension boiled over. A potential buyer would likely have been across the desk from Creek. The same spot in the room that we established that the killer must have started their rampage. Cute idea, Counselor, but there's no meat to it. We know that Creek was using that data pad before he died. And we know that the dark card was processing a transaction at the time. But for some reason, you've made the assumption that he was selling, when the simplest explanation that he was buying, using the dark card that he owned. The dark card belonged to Creek? How will you respond? I don't need to respond with evidence. I just need to point out the flawed evidence she's constructed her argument upon. Yeah, it has no prints on it. Characterization, Your Honor. Ooh, I love this little animation. It's very good. The people are claiming that the dark card in the evidence room belonged to the victim, Creek. despite the fact that it has no fingerprints on it either. What? If that dark card belonged to Creek, he would have had to insert it into his data pad with his teeth. Yuck. So who did the dark card belong to? Perhaps a customer who didn't like his prices. A disgruntled customer could have wiped their prints off the card to hide the fact they were ever there. That's absurd. If a customer brought that dark card with them to the crime scene, why the hell wouldn't they take it with them when they left? It was stuck in the data pad. Could have pulled a little harder. Could have taken the data pad with them. Who would leave behind something that valuable? The card is worthless to everyone but its owner, to whom it could be priceless. Why would they choose to leave it behind? The answer to that's simple, if I'm honest. We're discussing the possibility of a deal gone south. What could cause that in the first place? Aggressive negotiation tactics? Or a customer who couldn't pay? This customer could afford a dark card, and yet they couldn't pay. Hold on, you're trying to say all these deaths, all this carnage, you think it's all because their card got declined? Hard to live down that kind of faux pas. Murdering 4 or 5 people in order to skip paying your bill is pretty aggressive, but if you need your fix, was there any indication that contraband was taken from the scene of the crime? Your Honor, that is difficult to say. Without knowing their inventory before the crime occurred, we cannot rule out the possibility. That was a little lackluster of a pushback. Is she really that thrown off by this witness playing hooky? Well, I hate to do this, because I love spending time with you all and having a physical body and being insolved, but it does seem like I have to declare a recess while we wait. Perfectly reasonable, Your Honor. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard. What? Court is now in recess. I feel like everyone got confused by that line. What the fuck did she just say? And why? So, Aria Holdings is not part of House Icaria? No, it is. House Icaria is comprised of the literal Icaria family, the Icaria Financial Group, and Aria Holdings. But each of those parts is a separate identity from the others. That is very confusing. Well, yes, it can be confusing, but it protects us. Protects the IFG? No, protects the house from itself. If everyone in the Icaria family was a member of the IFG, and the IFG was called the Icaria family, that'd be much simpler. I know it would be simpler, but that's... Who the hell is this guy to keep Rockford waiting? Are you addressing your question to me? Never met the man. Well, he's met you, smacked you upside the head, and cuffed you. If you say so. I told you, I don't remember anything after I walked out of that holding room. Chime in at any time. Apologies, Adonai. I was just trying to answer your question. Who the hell is Officer Rogers? You find his socials or something? I found a news story attached to a live feed. Also, I love how much Morgan is just like, he's keeping Rockford waiting. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? You don't keep a woman like that waiting. She's too hot for that. What was that, Adonai? Don't worry about it. He's shaking hands with some men at the top of some stairs. Right now? What's the headline? City council members thank heroic officer for his service. Oh, well, that makes sense. Oh, can it? Emma's outranked. If the politicians decided now was the time to do photo ops, she doesn't have the pull to go against them. Are Officer Chopin's parents there? Yes, both of his fathers were present. Adoptive fathers. They're trying to make me feel better. Adoptive or not, they're his parents, and their pain is real. Of course! But the pain would be equally real if they weren't expressing it in front of those cameras, don't you think? If you're feeling guilty, Sosuke, please get it out of your system before the trial resumes. I don't feel guilty. Even if I did kill that officer, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. It doesn't make it right. Taking a life? Parents having outlived their children. Here I thought you'd be all about filial piety. You telling me you wouldn't take a bullet for your patriarch, Daisuke? Of course I would. And force him to outlive his son. How could you? Adopted son. From a branch family. Do I need to point out how badly you're contradicting yourself? Daisuke Icaria could have let me waste away when the rest of the Hayakawa branch was killed. Instead, he placed me at the right hand of power, seat of honor. Of subservient. See, all seats of subservience. Not the one at the top. I didn't know the rest of your birth family died, Sosuke. Retaliation for the fall of the leaves. Quite the dignified way to refer to the Icaria killing all those blue bloods 30 years ago. Anyway, it was my understanding that that was a complete and total victory. The kind that left the blue bloods incapable of counterattacking. Very nearly so. You disapprove of what happened 30 years ago, Sosuke? Of course not. Barbarity of the house's enemies left him with no other choice but to act. No way out, huh? By the way, I was asked to pass along a message to you. If you're given a way out, take it. Who told you that? She said her name was Mireille. Who is she? A powerful member of the house, on the side of Aurea. Slow down, loose lips. I didn't ask for a whole life story. What? Oh, sarcasm. Sorry, I'm just surprised. Surprised that she'd take a personal interest in the outcome of this affair. So, did that message mean anything to you? I'm not sure. They were a terrifically helpful client. You know that? There's something you should know about me, Morgan. About the Hound of Icaria. I didn't earn that title as a bodyguard or a head of security. The Hound sounds more like an attack dog. Like an assassin. I didn't learn how to kill in the military. The Hound of Icaria is the house's personal assassin. Color me surprised. Look, do you see how shocked I am? Look at my face. What happened to the House of Icaria being refined? Elevated above their criminal past. The house is elevated. That status has granted more enemies than ever. Enemies that need to be taken out silently, but undeniably. Undeniably? What I do is send messages. They need to be received by the right people, and they need to know who it's from. You kill, so that their houses and the nobility know it was the Hound, but can't prove that House Icaria was responsible. Their own pride over being able to handle things internally, and their humiliation at being outplayed, ensures the death stays out of the papers. So the entire police force can descend on a jaywalker caught by a reflection off a dash cam, but the nobility gets to wave off the surveillance state with a perfumed handkerchief, flaunting how the rules don't apply to them. Like I thought, a very pure expression of power. So all that talk about you being Makoto's head of security, that was all true. I have been Makoto's head of security for the past year. Did your courier business dry up? Circumstances around Makoto had changed. I was asked to step in and fill a role. And what you said about guarding the previous heir, waving your katana around as soon as you could walk? The circumstances were different then too. Why tell me now? Because now that I've seen her, I don't think Rockford will have missed it. No, why didn't you tell me yesterday, the first time we met, when I could have actually prepared for this? Clearly you got some deeply held desire to rot in prison since you won't help me win this case. What happened in the last 5 minutes that you suddenly got cold feet? I don't know. Yesterday, I thought you were just some outsider, in over their head, who would surely drown if they knew who they were defending. Today, I think you're an outsider, in over their head, who could stay afloat with a lifeline. Thanks for the heads up. 5 minutes notice really comes in handy when your clients ask you to catch a bullet. Excuse me. I'm sorry to disappoint you too, Sarah. Can't imagine you're pleased to be defending a self-confessed killer. I don't know what you went through when you were a soldier, and I have no idea what you've gone through as an assassin. Yesterday, Adenai suggested I shouldn't speak about these kind of things, since I have no experience with them. I don't know if she's right about that. But soldiers and assassins do exist in this world, and they are still people. And I think I would be sad if I couldn't talk to any of them. On a related note, could you catch a bullet, Sosuke Ikaria? No, Sarah. But you're a cybernetically enhanced martial artist. Bullets are very fast. That is true. I could probably catch an arrow if I knew it was coming. To be fair, you don't need to be modified to catch an arrow. I've seen them, they did that on Mythbusters. They straight up showed you can catch an arrow. Genetic or cybernetic modifications or not. Tell me more. God, I love Sarah so much. She's the best, isn't she, Biscuit? Sarah is easily and without a doubt my favorite character. Okay. What time is it? Yeah, we can go on a little bit longer. So, you and your partner were the second officers to arrive on the scene. Biscuit? Biscuit, down. That's correct, ma'am. When the 1099 went out, my partner and I were relatively center city. We were within jogging distance of the site. After an elevator ride, so we proceeded on foot. Biscuit? My baby boy, why are you always so naughty? My baby boy, you just like causing chaos. Roger still hasn't shown. Emma must have rushed London to adjust to the reshuffled docket. I assume he was rushed. He does seem somewhat distracted. We arrived on the premises at 10:21 p.m. At 10:27 p.m., we assisted Officer Rogers in completing his arrest of the suspect. What did that involve? Reading rights to an unconscious man? That's a good bit. We helped Rogers finish cuffing the suspect is what I meant. His hands were shaking. Your witness, counselor. I'd like to ask London why he wasn't explicit about all this yesterday. Complaining about a detective not being forthcoming with the defense isn't exactly a winning strategy. He didn't hesitate to show me his involvement with the mafias yesterday. What's he got left to hide? Dumb question, detective, but did you have your body camera on? Officers aren't required to turn on body cameras when responding to an emergency, counselor, and detectives aren't required to wear body cameras at all. Like I said, dumb question. Why were you and your partner in Center City that night, detective? To be honest, I hadn't eaten dinner yet, and I was really in the mood for some kind of hot soup, you know. My partner was kind enough to indulge me on taking a drive. That's all he's gonna say. So I can call him a compromised witness just because he was in the area, but the hell is there even to press when his answer's that simple? Almost tempted to. And how did you and your partner go about clearing the building? Took point, my partner covered me, checking the rooms behind us as we went. It was tense, searching the rooms with that racket blaring from upstairs. You were still searching for suspects, even though there was a 1099 on the third floor? Rogers had already reported the manner of his partner's death, counselor. We're gonna run upstairs to try and defibrillate. How was that report made? Over comms, around 10 to 17 p.m. It's a common practice to separate from one another when responding to a 1099. Am I calling it a 1099 when it's a 10999? It's one of several valid approaches the department advises in critical scenarios. Did you ever lose sight of your partner? I might have. So she might have lost sight of you. Speculation, Your Honor. If I can't see you, you can't see me. That's not speculation, Your Honor, just grade school logic. Overruled. Spill the deeds, witness. Yes, me and my partner were separated as we cleared the building. More than a minute, I'd say. Interesting. Literally the only thing we have left to press.
Mother, the order, it burns me from the inside, but the chaos. Oh, the beautiful chaos, it envelopes me like a warm blanket.
You want to be enveloped like a warm blanket? I will envelop you like a warm blanket. Let me do it. Also, you literally have warm blankets to envelop you. So many of them. Was this pretty good, detective? Never got any in the end. I had this hole-in-the-wall place in mind, but when we got there, turned out they'd gone out of business last month. Been a while since I last stopped by. Guess I always knew they weren't that successful, but honestly, I thought I'd lose some of its charm if it got popular. But if I hadn't been so selfish, you never know how much you'll miss that 7 out of 10 restaurant until it's gone, you know. Yeah. It's not relevant, but it is poignant and deeply human. I'll allow it. Or I won't punish it, at least. Now ask a real question. Okay, this is literally the only thing we have left. Biscuit. But by chance, did your partner have a body camera going? Perhaps out of a characteristic abundance of respect for the rules. Matter of fact, I believe she did. Biscuit boy. So, the first 4 of the city's brave policemen to arrive at the scene of the crime. Only one of them thought to turn their body cam on. It's my understanding that Rogers couldn't turn his on. It had been broken early in the week. And Tariq Chapin? I don't know why he didn't have his on. Does Emma know? Does Officer Rogers? Thank you for giving us all that to chew on, Detective London. Come on, give me a break. I was trying to be helpful. No, I mean it. Blackjack. I'm especially interested to hear you describe how my client was unconscious and helpless by the time he first appeared on any body cam. Shall we review that footage together? I wonder if we can pinpoint exactly how many wounds he received in between his arrest and when his mugshot was taken. Redirect, Your Honor. Really? What is she doing now? The prosecution called Detective London as their witness and asked their questions. Anna and I just had the chance to ask her own questions during the cross-examination. After the cross-examination, the people can redirect if they have additional questions for the witness. So it isn't just one for them and one for us, more like an eye for an eye until justice is blind and bloody. She wants another round. Why? Just stalling? Detective London, are you aware of an ongoing police investigation for a figure known as the Hound of Icaria? Not stalling. Approach, Your Honor. Why do I finally get to say the line? Oh, hold on, that's happening too fast. Okay, Biscuit. Oh, so Biscuit. Naughty boy. Time out time. Biscuit has earned himself a timeout until stream ends. Oh, so you're a pro and they're already here. This Hound of Icaria is obviously some kind of file that the Organized Crime Department is working on. Detective London isn't qualified to speak on it. Homicide, organized crime, is there that big a difference? Depends on the career of the witness in question. Detective London, for example, spent 6 years in the Organized Crimes Unit. He what? You didn't know that? Where are you taking this, Emma? Ugh, I hate to admit it, but I think I need spoilers as well. If you ask him about this, what's he gonna say? At the Hound of Icaria is an assassin who leaves calling cards at each of his kills, terrorizing the house of perceived enemies without shame, and the lead suspect in those cases is a man around Sosuke's age and height, with gray blue hair, a modded spine, and a large tattoo of a dog across his back. Sosuke, you vain son of a bitch, you got made with your shirt off! God damn it, I'm sure you look smoking hot with your shirt off when you're doing your kills, but god damn it. Achoo! Bless you. You cannot let the jury hear that, Your Honor. But I really want to. If organized crimes wanted to arrest Sosuke, they should have done so already. He's on trial here today for these 5 counts and nothing else. The defense has once again claimed that their client is merely some veteran who's been victimized by greater forces, but the police believe that he's in fact the deadliest soldier the Icaria have at their disposal. That's not irrelevant. No, it's just prejudicial as hell. Ugh, girls fighting, but obeying the legal precedent. The tension, the human drama. I'll just be given a summary. The case file won't enter the record. So when you give me the chance to object to the evidence, Your Honor, if you do this, the jury will be spoiled within seconds, and all my clients served up a mistrial before the day's through. And some other lucky adjutant will get to have all the rest of the fun. I've severed the jury's feet for the time being. I like to hear exactly what the witness has to say before ruling on this testimony's inclusion. Your Honor, the gallery is not your concern, nor a concern of justice. This trial will remain open to the public until such a time as I or the state feel it shouldn't be. Decision made. Thank you, Your Honor. What just happened? The jury's gonna take a bathroom break, and we'll get to ask her questions, but in all likelihood, the jury will make sure they never hear the answers. So we aren't any worse off? Sosuke might be. What do you mean? This gallery's filled to the brim with cops. They all think he killed Chopin. If London regales us all the tales of the Hound's exploits on top of that. Don't worry, Sosuke. They can't do anything to you here, because we're in a courtroom. I won't spend the rest of my life in this room, Sarah. Even if I could, I wouldn't. Detective London, if you would, please testify as to the— Oh, for real? Your Honor? What now? Hey, Rockford, that witness guy who flaked on you made you look dumb? Yes? He's finally here. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no more questions for the witness at this time. Really? But the redirect fizzles out. Counselor, you want to snap it up? No, Your Honor. Dang, Detective London. Nobody wants to talk to your ass. Miss Rockford let it go. Doesn't hold anything back in the courtroom, but only because that's what gives her the greatest chance of victory. If the jury wouldn't hear it either way, and she has no need to stall for time, she won't stoke the coals for the fun of it. So if you hadn't fought against that redirect up to the very last moment... The bullet caught, huh? Yeah, nothing impressive about putting my arm between the gun and my... Heart? I was gonna say stomach. That analogy seems weaker somehow. Okay, we have our new witness. There he is, the man of the hour. The hero who put us off to the Hound of Icaria and brought justice to the city over the loss of its favorite son, Tariq Chapman. Patrol Officer Rogers reporting for duty. Okay, you know what? This feels like a good place to stop. This feels perfect. Look at this guy. Look at this man. That's a killer if I've ever seen one. Look at him. He's got the stone-cold glare of a murderer. I'm also almost certain that he actually is the killer, but... Anyways, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all so much for joining me and for hanging out. Oh, we're getting through it. I don't know how long this episode is, but we're getting through it. We're doing it. I have a feeling episode 1 was hopeful, potentially longer than this one will be. This one might be shorter. I don't know. Just feels like it might be. But anyways, That's all for today. Saturday, Kingdom Hearts. Sunday, possibly a stream, possibly not. I don't know. If we do, it'll be art. But other than that, nope, that's it. Discord for alerts and join in on polls and other such things. Uh, Socials for updates for when or to get heads up for when I stream. I don't know, stuff like that. But until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Get some food, get some water, get some rest, all y'all. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. Yep, nope, that's it. I'm always just like, am I forgetting something? Am I forgetting something? No, I'm not forgetting anything. Goodbye. We'll see you later. Read books.